We'll go to the study session. Board of Trustees will conduct a study session regarding facilities planning throughout the district.
Do we need a motion? Is that an action? No, it's info. So we're good.
We turn over to Candace too.
Okay.
All right. So Sarah, if you'll get that up on the screen. So your fabulous team facilities. We are really excited to be here today. The last time we sat down in this setting with a new facilities master plan was on July 25th of 2017 to be exact. I think we spent about 4.5 or 5 hours with you. I believe you were virtual, if memory.
I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, we're really excited to present our new master plan to you and walk through what that process looked like in our district, similar to the last time around, with different results, of course, because we've fast forwarded many years. But we're excited about that, to present that to you, as well as some recommended next steps. The next one. So what we have in store for you today is I'm just very briefly going to go over the master planning history in our district, and then I'm going to kick it over to Dr. Good, who I would like to officially welcome back. You've now completed 4 master plans for us over 15 years, and I'll walk through that process. But Dr. Good and Hector will go over, can you go back one, I can go on here. We'll go over that master plan. That's going to be the bulk of our time with you. Going over each of the site-based master plans, district facilities, future and prospective sites, because facilities, we always need to be looking years ahead, like 15 years ahead at times. The projected costs for implementation. We're going to look at our enrollment trends. Yes, Mr.
I thought this was coming in, but
Oh, okay.
someone walked by.
All right.
My bad,
Thank
sorry.
you. I thought you were asking a question already. We're going to look at facilities funding and financing alternatives, and then our recommended next steps. So if we go to the next one. So I'm going to rewind us back to 2008, and that is when we did our very first, I don't know about the very first master plan, but the very first master plan in my tenure. Anyway, I'm not sure what happened decades and decades before that. But in terms of what we could find, it was our very first school facilities master plan. Just like all of our master plans, that was done with a group of stakeholders. So we had site-based committees throughout all of 2007 and 8, and then we ended up with our 2008 master plan. Being that first year,
I have someone who is trying to look for a young guy. Someone you know.
Hey, Howard, I can help you. Mr. Jackson, our counselor.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was like, I didn't know where. Thank you.
Jay, you want me to help?
Not find anything.
I was waiting for somebody to say that. All right, and so that first year after the school facilities master plan, we then implemented a district-wide facilities improvement committee where we looked at all of the site-based master plans. We worked with architects and put costs to the master plan, and then we had our 2009 master plan as an update to the 2008 site-based master plan. I think I referenced at the beginning of the meeting in July of 2017, we presented our 2017 master plan. All of the projects that we have done since then, including all of the Measure W projects and Paloma, which we're about to start, we sort of refer to as our 2017 projects because they all came out of that master plan and those funding and financings that we did as a result. And then we're here today to talk about our 2003. I keep doing that.
2020. I know.
Hector
Are we
keeps
20
touching
years
me.
of
2020. I don't know why I keep doing that, and it's only as it relates to facilities that I'm doing that. Anyway, so we are here today to talk about our 2023 master plan. You have that in front of you, Elizabeth. Did you bring yours, or do you want to borrow?
Oh, yeah.
I brought an extra in case. I'll pass one down just in case you want to refer, to that. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Good.
Okay. Elizabeth, what great timing, because I had a special permission for you and for Steve because I had a medical leave for a little while, and I hadn't had a chance to work with both of you, as much. So I was, saving my quick overview of, what I've done. But as you're going to hear, I've got have had an incredible spot in my heart for Paris, and you're going to hear why, because some of you don't know that I was the superintendent in Val Verde when Val Verde was an elementary district, and I became incredible buddies with Dean Hain, the Paris High School district superintendent. I think he felt sorry for me that, one, I was going to Val Verde, and two, I was a new superintendent. But man, we hit it off at the very beginning. And he saw me as a sucker, I know, because I ended up being one of the first superintendents and districts in the state to create what was now called and then called a facilities, a CFD, Community Facilities District. And it ended up being great for Val Verde because we were the lead agency. Paris was kind of our partner in crime, if you will. But you talk about learning a lot about, not just my district, Val Verde, but learning a lot about Paris High School District. So it ended up being, in hindsight, looking at that as a beginning, and now with what I've done with you for the last 15 years, you talk about great training for, things coming full circle. But anyway, I have always had, and Grant knows this, I've always had a incredibly warm spot in my heart for Paris and the districts within, your overall district. But I've learned a lot about programs in all of the feeder districts and, of course, your district. I worked in virtually every district around here planning and designing schools. And I'm just so happy to be, working with you guys again. I've got to tell you, even though I know that Wednesday night had its rough things that, I sat through, and you personally, sat through all of that. I'm really excited about what we're going to be sharing tonight because, Grant, the job that you've done in the 16 years that I worked in the district with you and then with you as leader, I cannot believe how the staff has just opened up over the last, 10 years at least. And we are the benefactors because in our planning efforts, they're not shy about sharing the ideas about, what they need and, how they want it. And the best part is, and I think Candace and Hector will, agree with this, we told them at the start of this master planning process in January that, guys, we have no money. We've spent it all, but yet, we feel the need. We've done this 4 times now, and we want to know where, you would like us to go. And that's the strongest part when we're able to say to them, guys, we can't promise anything in the world because we have, have no money whatsoever. But it's to me, and maybe you guys could chime in if you feel so inclined. This was the most committed, excited group that I think I've had in the 4 turns in doing the master plan. And you would think, we've got, a new high school. We've got, certainly Paris High School has got, a ton done to it. But I think that what has happened is everybody have become believers, and Grant, thanks to your leadership, that the district is going to follow through on what they promise. And again, the best part was we're not promising anything. But I don't know, anything you guys want to add as far as the process? And
No, I would agree. I think the committees this time around, even though the makeup was similar, each time before, I think people feel energized. I think, we if we go back to Measure T and then not being able to access state funding for so long, necessitating in part, Measure W, I think people wanted to believe, and then they saw it come to fruition. They see Liberty High School, and it's amazing. They see Paris High School, and it is not the same Paris High School. And so they're seeing that these chances do exist for us in Paris Union High School District, and we had to hold some of them back. They're like, can we just go for another bond measure? Like right now, like who do I need to talk to? Can I knock? They're like, wait, we're
hold on, guys.
We're not talking about that right now. But it was nice to see, the energy nonetheless. So.
Yeah, just the energy in the room during these facilities master plan committees, and one of the things that was my favorite component to this was the involvement of students. Those students had great ideas. They had great vision. I mean, they're on the campus, right? They're in the classrooms. They know what they need in the classrooms. A couple of the meetings, like we thought we were down one road, and the students like, hey, wait a minute, what about this? And everybody in the room just kind of looked around. It's like all the adults just kind of shook their head and, you know what, this kid is right. We need to be looking at that before we go to look at something else. So the energy of just everybody involved, parents, students, teachers, everyone that was involved in these committees just was really awesome.
And again, I'm just so excited that, we were not promising anything, and yet they were totally, invested. And I wanted to tell you that with my medical timeout, it was really amazing to me to see the impacts, both good, bad, whatever, that we all went through with COVID. And I had a long discussion with Juan, my principal at Paris High School, about, how are the kids different, now that they're back and now that I'm back. And, it was just, it was very enlightening. And as the months went through and the meetings were, held at the various sites, it just became obvious that, and I don't remember, Edward, if it was you that said it in one of the meetings that I attended, or who it was, but the idea, it might have been one of Diane Martin's presentations, where one of you said how important it is. Not everybody's going to college in every form, and it just rang true in the committee meetings that the kids are different, and again, I've always loved your kids. They're just, for us, in what we do, they are so appreciative of, how we leave the school to them that is better than when we started. And so, anyway, I've really noticed that. I've noticed it with the staff as well, and part of that might be that Liberty had a kind of a different operating system than the other schools per se, but definitely the staff is really into, as Candace said, what it is that we're willing to listen to as far as how they deliver programs and educational services. I will say that the scary part, and I was a little bit of a non-believer with Candace on this, and I'm not a non-believer with her. But I thought, is because I was part of Liberty, I was kind of like a godfather. I found the initial site and, all of that. But when Erica was named, the principal, and Candace and I behind the scenes did a ton of research on, okay, what's the enrollment going to be the first year, second year? You remember we started with 2 grades, and your daughter was one of those. But Candace kind of held steadfast that no, I think we're going to move towards filling the school when the 3rd year starts. Well, guess who was right again? Because we're really there, and that's the part that is a little daunting right now, because with Paloma, it's not slowed down. enrollment has not slowed down. With Heritage, it's not really slowed down. Paris has kind of kept, at its pace. But anyway, I mean, we'll talk about this later, but it's really kind of interesting to see how much, we're still moving ahead. So with that in mind, I want just one last thing, is that when we look at all of the schools, and Hector talks about all of the campuses, there's kind of a crunch as to we're pushing towards the capacity challenge at 3 of the 4 comprehensive sites. CMI has its own challenges that we'll talk about, but so we've got some careful thinking and study that we need to do, and we want to do with you, and anyway, we'll get there. So Hector, yeah, can you? Thank you. So I want to talk just a little bit, and this is a kind of a re-emergence, if you will, of what we presented to you before we started the new master plan process. We have completed post-occupancy evaluations at both Liberty and Paris High School. That kind of lets us see what has really worked, what has not worked as well. Are there things that we still need more time or research on? And we'll be sharing that information with you. The site-based committees were completed at all of the sites, and it was really, I think, good planning by Grant and Candace that we really let the principals think about the composition of who their committees would include. As Hector said, including students. Students were some of the most valuable providers of input at several of the sites. But and Bob was a big help in helping with some of the district sites and with PALS, and so it was really helpful to get the committees organized and oriented to their school, and again, especially because we had nothing to offer. We were not offering anything in the future. 3 sites were completed at all 3 meetings were completed at all of the sites. Attendance was great. Very, very few no-shows, and that was good to see. And then the thing that was really interesting was we let each individual site go through the prioritization of their ranking items, so that they ended up with a list that you see in the final master plan that shows what it is that they covet as the most important things. Now, those may or may not be the things that are most important to you or to Grant or the cabinet, but still we thought it was important for you to have access to that that input from them. And then the last thing I wanted to share is that we've developed really close working relationships with the cities and with the county, and they've really enjoyed seeing what we're doing as part of this planning, and we'll share some of that with you. So we plan to like you have received your copies, we're going to share that with our partners at the cities and counties. So Hector, and then the last thing I wanted to share, really the purpose of the master plan was always made very clear that kids come first. Staffs are obviously very, very important, but the kids and their needs are our number one priority, and that's the way it has been. That's kind of been our mantra in all of the schools that we've done projects on, and it's served us well to date. As far as the vision, we need to be stewards of change for the students. As I said, they've come back kind of re-energized, and as far as what education means to them after having been out with COVID and, being, the things that they've gone through. We certainly had the constituents in our ears the whole time, which was exactly what we wanted. But we found that their involvement is really an important part of project planning. So, we intend to follow that. And they've told us that they also, if there are other projects, they want to be heard. And then the last part is the process really, I think, showed to us that the comprehensive high schools in both Menifee and in Romoland are really kind of busting at the seams. So we'll talk more about that. We thought it would be good for everyone, you guys included, to have kind of an outline, if you will, of all of the sites in the district, when we acquired them, how many acres are included, at each site, and that includes some future sites that we'll be, talking about. But so this is meant to be kind of an opportunity if and when you need that information. We've included it in the master plan.
It's on page 11 if you're looking.
Okay, Mr. Hector, you want to?
And with that, I'll take over, and you'll hear my voice here for the next few minutes. And just to kind of go over, I'm going to go over each site, the outcome of the facilities master plan committees, and what we talked about, and a few different slides for each site. The first site, Paris High School, I'm going to go through a little bit more detail because it's a lot of information. And for sake of time, not being here till 11 o'clock at night, I'm going to just summarize. But please, at any time you see anything that you have a question on, please let me know, and we can dive into a little bit more detail. So first site we want to talk about is Paris High School. And this is the outcome of the Facilities Master Plan Committee. We talked about three things: site improvements within existing buildings, and new facilities. So in the green there, and I can do it one of two ways. Can you guys see the screens?
Yeah.
Okay, because I can also get up and point to the front, but I'll take a play out of Fred's book and give this one sitting down. So Paris High School, for site improvements, there in the Facilities Master Plan document, you have the same graphic. In the green are site improvements. Number one at Paris High School that came up to the top of their list was installing stadium lights for baseball fields. Number two, installing artificial turf on athletic fields. Number three, installing retaining wall to create more playfield space adjacent to the stadium. Number four, traffic and off-site drainage work with the city of Paris, and that one actually came to a head yesterday. If anyone happened to go by Paris High School, there's a river out there, so that one is pretty important. Number five, remodel gymnasium planned to create additional seating, and then for improvements within existing buildings, remodel reuse of old wrestling room. So if you've been on the campus, we have a wrestling room, right? They just got remodeled, the C building. But what they meant was the old wrestling room, which was traditionally on the side of the big gym. So right next to the big gym, on one side is a fitness exercise room, the other side is the old weight room. So when they talked about remodel reuse, what is that used for? Does it get remodeled into something else? But that was part of their list, of the Facilities Master Plan Committee list. And the new facilities. Create restroom facilities and storage for 6, 7, and 8,000 buildings. So if you look at where those are, 7 points to a new restroom facility. 6 and 8 points to construct student and staff restrooms for baseball and softball field. That's down here at the bottom in the blue, right there. So those are the improvements and the additions and the changes to Paris High School Facilities Master Plan Committee recommended.
And just for a quick clarification, well, two things. One, Hector's on page 70 if you want to look in your book. And the order that they're listed on this page is not the rank order by the committee. It just corresponds to the keynotes, if you will, within the site master plan. So as Hector was saying, if you're looking for the new restroom facility that's notated in number 7 here, you can kind of find that on the map, just to orient you with how this is put together.
Yeah, There's actually, we do have a slide in here that the committee's rank ordered what they talked about. So after this slide, I'll get to that. Actually, 2 slides down, I'll get to that. So with these improvements come costs, right? What do these things cost, right? If, Facilities Master Plan identifies what needs to happen, what we as a community, what we as a school community and people at the school, stakeholders at the school identify as needing to happen. But those things come with a cost, right? And for us to be able to plan for future construction, future remodeling, future, whatever it may be, we got to have an idea of what it's going to cost. So we get an idea of the scale of how much money we're going to need. So this next slide, it talks about a grand total of everything we talked about so far at Paris High School of about $12.3 million for those improvements. And we broke it out there in the different columns for the green, the yellow, and the blue. And those numbers are estimates, and those estimates are very. We had a lot of thought put into them. Our architectural partners, PJHM Architects, took what the ideas were, what the items that were identified to the committee were, and put numbers to them.
A quick question.
Sure.
For number 2, install artificial turf on athletic fields. Is that for every field down there, or specific fields like baseball field, softball field? But is it all every play surface down there?
Everything that's grass still.
Everything is still grass.
Yeah, everything
Okay.
that's still grass.
Yeah, did you see it?
Yeah, I saw all the green. I just didn't know if all that green was what they were
But not over
including.
at Panther Park.
Not over at Benther Park.
Correct.
No, what were you?
Yeah.
What were you-
So just going back. So keynote number 2, all the green, that would all be artificial turf.
Okay.
And David, just one additional thing, and I say it for Paris High School because Paris High School is 33.65 acres.
Yeah, it's one of the smallest high school we have. Compared to
Yeah,
high school.
as compared to
63 acres
Yes.
at Heritage or something.
Very
Right.
encourage your master plans.
Yeah.
Come
So,
on.
but I mean, so the idea, and the committee felt strongly about this, is that because of scheduling needs, milking the most out of
The space we have.
the space we have, or the limited space we
Yeah,
have.
I was just and I had no problem with them requesting it because I mean it's just less maintenance. I mean,
Right.
it is a higher cost when you have to replace it after 10, 15 years, or
Right.
whatever. But I just wanted to make sure that we weren't just talking about just the baseball field or just the softball
Oh.
field. We're talking about anything that has grass.
Anything grass on the campus.
Okay.
And funny you say that because Lake Elsinore did a bunch of their fields in all artificial turf, and ever since then, pretty much every facilities director in the room, in the area, when we go to our collaborative meetings, they're all asking, "Hey, are your people asking for artificial turf? They want us to do our whole fields because Lake Elsinore did it. I mean, it looked beautiful, right? So people, baseball coaches go and they see it and they start talking to other teachers, and it just it makes it onto the list. I mean, because it is a beautiful facility, and they have to be changed out every 7 to 10 years.
Yeah, so-
That's about what we're seeing last.
Then we just changed
for
Paloma
artificial
Valleys
turf.
just like 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
something like that.
I don't know, this might be going off subject a little bit. When we put artificial turf in, and we're talking about all the fields, are we still retaining our groundskeepers?
Yeah.
Okay, so they still have work to be able to do?
Artificial turf doesn't mean no maintenance. They have to be swept. They have to be sanitized. They have to be raked.
Well, I just don't want to push out people,
No.
I want them to still retain jobs. That's something I always think.
People say, well, you got rid of your field, so it's less maintenance, right? You got all this time to do other things. No, it's a lot of maintenance.
Yeah, the scope changes.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, their actual job description
Yeah.
changes, but
They go from lawnmowers to sweeper machines, right? So they're still doing work out there. And as a matter of fact, people talk about like no water or low water, right? The artificial turfs are not no water.
Right.
yeah.
You still have to clean them, wash them. On a hot day, you have to cool them down. There's a lot of water that goes along with it.
Yeah, I'm seeing turf catch on fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember specifically
No.
the Paloma
That's
committee
interesting.
telling us, just put artificial turf back on, we'll get to Paloma in a minute, back on the back 6.2, like, you don't even need water out there, like, and so
Yeah.
Dr. had to
Yeah.
explain.
Yes,
I
you
guess,
do.
Yeah, you need a lot of water.
Just from the heat?
Yeah, spontaneous combustion, yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I guess it's common, they talk about when they install, but
They were doing that, not to get off the track here, but they were doing that. So for a while, people were infilling them. We use rubber pellets, and we've
Yeah.
always used rubber pellets, but people were using coconut husks, and it's an organic.
Well, yeah.
So they get hot as heck, and then they get a little moisture on them, and then perfect conditions, and they light on
Hasn't
fire.
anybody ever seen the show Survivor? They used to put it in the house to start the fire.
Oh.
I mean, that's what they used to start the fire.
Right.
Most new constructions have gone away from that, but they were using that for a while.
Oh, my daughter and I love to watch Survivor. Yeah.
So just a little bit. So we talked about Paris High School, $12.3 million. Site improvements, $150,000 for the stadium lighting. Artificial turf, $7.6. That stuff is not cheap, and a lot of that is getting rid of the existing grass and grading and bringing in, because you basically have to build an asphalt parking lot, and then the turf goes on top of that.
And you have to build in all the drainage.
I mean, there's a lot that goes along with it, so it's not cheap. Install a retaining wall to create more playfield space adjacent to the stadium, $500,000. Traffic offsite, work with the city. I mean, we don't own the offsite facility, so we put $25,000 in there as, agreements, fees, permits, stuff like that. But that's really the city's job to make those improvements out there. And then remodel the gymnasium plan to create additional seating, $100,000. Remodel reuse of the old wrestling room, $740,000.
Do they intend to keep it as a wrestling room, or do they want to change it?
They don't use it as a wrestling room anymore. We remodeled the old locker rooms.
Mhm.
The boys' locker rooms are now half weight room, awesome weight room, and then half of it is the wrestling room. So we don't use that as a wrestling room.
We just call it old wrestling.
What do they want to use it for? If we're going to be, it would be remodeling it.
Remodel for maybe a fitness room.
Yeah, I know it's connected to the gym, so I was just curious.
Remodel for as a PE classroom. Something like that.
It could be a dance room. It could be
Yeah.
cheerleading practice.
Most recently,
Right.
we've been using it as the band room, but with the opening of the new VAPA building, the band moved down there. So that room is sitting empty. It's a prime real estate right in the middle of the campus. So $740,000 to remodel that. New facilities, restroom facilities and storage next to the 6th, 7th, and 8,000 buildings, $1.6 million. And then construct student staff restrooms for baseball and softball, $1.6 million.
What have they been doing down there recently? Are there porta potties? Or are they
Porta potties.
They're forced to go use a porta potty, or forced to go all the way up to
Paris High School has always used a porta potty.
Okay.
Beginning of the baseball season, and it's a funny thing because all the ADs that go there, it's always a fight between. It used to be Art and the AD. Now it's myself and the AD. Hey, you're paying for the porta potty. No, I'm not. That's your baseball porta potty. And we go back and forth. It's on them to pay for it. So next slide, we get to the rank order. Part of the committee's job was to identify these improvements, identify what needs to happen, and come to a consensus, right? And then rank order. How important are they to the committee? So here at Paris High School, number one on the list is to create restroom facility and storage for the 6th, 7th, and 8,000 buildings. Number 2, install stadium lighting for baseball. Number 3, construct student and staff restrooms for baseball and softball. 4th place was install retaining wall, create more playfield adjacent to stadium. Number 5, install artificial turf on athletic fields. Number 6, remodel reuse of old wrestling room. Number 7, remodel gymnasium planters to create additional outdoor seating. And last but not least, create off-site drainage, work with the city of Paris. One thing I want to mention as we go through the sites, this list is not concrete, right? Number 1 might not be number 1. We might get money through some kind of grant with Edison, right? And we're able to put in the lighting. So number 2 becomes number 1. It gets taken off the list. Maybe the city of Paris, because I'm sending them pictures of what happened with the rain yesterday. Maybe that city of Paris says, hey, we have money, we want to fix that street out there. Maybe that get moved to number 1. So the rank order is what the committee thought was most important, ranked all the way down the line. But it might not happen that way. As funds become available, we look at the list and we make decisions based on what needs to happen.
It's just like we did at Paloma with the snack bar bathroom building wasn't number 1 on the list.
Right.
Yeah, correct.
But we were able to get some different monies that could cover that, so we were able to build that
Yeah, correct.
ahead of time.
And it's one of those things too, right? Sports people on the campuses, their stuff is always number 1. The teachers at math department, their stuff is number 1. Whatever department you're talking to, their stuff is always number 1. So what was awesome about the committees is that, and we had student participation too. It's like, hey, this is my number 1. The students like, well, we think that this is important. It's like, okay, well, they have a good idea, great idea. So as we went through, all that stuff was really great to see.
And you can see Paris High's list is much shorter, as you can imagine, since
Yeah, we just did a whole
and we
bunch
don't
of
even
stuff
have a
there,
list
so-
for Liberty
Yeah.
because it's brand new, but you'll see the.
Yeah, so with that, we'll move to Paloma Valley.
And that is on page 52 if you want to see things that are in small print.
Yeah, I'll give you a minute so
Easier.
you guys can get to it.
And we'll go faster through them now. We won't read
Yeah.
every single
Yeah.
thing. Just we kind of wanted to orient you so you know how the master plan. So when you read this every night, as you go sleep, a few pages a night.
Yeah, so Paloma Valley High School, we're getting ready to start an awesome project out there. As a matter of fact, this Thursday, Chad and I are going to go to Paul Miller's offices in we're opening bids on the Paloma Valley Improvements Project. So we'll open bids. We're going to award at the September meeting and get to the races, start building out there. So that project includes the new NPR, culinary as part of that NPR, new auto shop, the new addition to the administration. So we have single point of entry out in the parking lot. We're going to redo that whole front parking lot. And so all that is getting ready to start here pretty soon. That's a phased project. We're looking at probably about 3 years worth of work out there. But this is what we're talking about in the needs assessment, and the master plan is besides that, is beyond that. So site improvements, same thing. Install artificial turf in back 6 acres, 6.2 acres. I measured at one time for multi-purpose athletic fields. Install lights in the back 6 acres. Irrigation improvements. That's a gist of the site improvements. Improvements within existing facilities. We talked about converting existing theater to flexible use meeting and classroom space. And when I get to new facilities, that one will make sense. Number 10, provide stadium storage. Number 11, make improvements to existing gym, and so on and so forth. New facilities. Plan for modular classrooms to accommodate enrollment growth. That's a big one. Build theater with black box and adjacent instructional storage facilities. That ties into to number 9.
Black box. What is that?
Black box is, you have your theater, and there's always a like at Liberty, there's a black box theater. It's a smaller performance space.
Oh, okay.
There's a stage in the middle, and people can sit around it.
Right.
It's more intimate for plays and
That makes
stuff
sense.
like
Now
that.
I know. I just never heard that phrase before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So at Paloma, and Paloma's committee thought it was important to talk about building a new theater, right? Their theater's on the smaller side. But remember, for a long time, they were the only school that had a theater. Paris High School, after what?
135 years.
135 years, finally has a theater.
Wow.
It's kind of a battle going on in the district right now between Paloma people and Paris High people, and,
Yeah.
and you know, as sectors of
My
Paloma.
thing is, Paris High had to wait 135 years. You've got one. Call me back in 135 years.
There we go. Good summary.
Well, if they want to convert existing theater to flexible use meeting, and what would they do for theater use? What would they?
Well, the number 14 on the new facilities is a new theater. And that's
okay, I see now.
where was it? Is that number 18? Number
Number 14.
14.
Theater with black box. Okay, just,
Yeah. So number 14 there. It's part of the parking lot now.
yeah.
And these what you're looking at in the graphics, you know, these are just placeholders. Yeah. Don't think if we ever said we were going to build a new theater that's where we're going. We'd still have to study the site and look at drainage and look at utilities and all kinds of things. So these are just placeholders. In no way think that if we got money that we would this is the location.
If we get rid of the teacher parking with the theater, where would the teachers?
There's a
To be determined.
yeah.
And build a parking structure.
Have to
There's
be a
Because number
parking
15
Right.
is displaced
Number
staff
15.
parking.
Number 15. that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Number 15 is a multi-story parking structure.
It started looking like Disneyland.
So
Yeah.
we're really going to
That's what it
have to
started
control that.
with.
Right.
Yeah, and if you parked in the teacher parking lot at Paloma, the spaces are really tight. I hear about it every time I walk on that campus. So you know they thought it was important that a parking structure, more parking is always premium there.
And in part, just to piggyback, if you don't mind, Hector, there was a lot of work done as a result of the conversations at Paloma. So having a new theater was really important to them. You'll see it didn't rise to the top above other things that they considered. But our architect did a lot of work in studying, like, where can it go? And while you think it might be as simple as just expanding the existing theater because of the occupancy loads in that building, because remember it connects to that whole front of the building, we can't expand that building any farther. We can't add foyer, we can't add more, seats, we can't add a black box, and we're we're just out of space at that campus. It can't go in the back 6 or 6.2.
6.2.
So really, we had to explore, and it would have to go in the parking lot. Well, if it has to go in the parking lot, then we're displacing parking, and so that's how that came about.
Do we have sufficient parking at all the schools?
We do,
Well.
unless it comes to graduation.
Yeah.
For day to day.
But
Yes,
Edward,
but not if we take half of it or some part of
Right,
the
right.
theater, of course.
But Edward, you bring up a really important point that I want to make you aware of. So clearly, Paloma Valley is, I mean, I thought once Liberty opened that Paloma was going to shrink a little bit. Well, it didn't go on a diet. I mean, it's, you know, it's still
What's the enrollment there right now?
at 20, almost 2,600. And
It's better than 3,500 it was before Liberty opened.
well, it is, but the other thing that I think we learned through COVID and the kids and the whole situation is that creating a coursework for the kids, if the enrollment gets too big, then that limits opportunities for kids, you know, that might want to have a shot at, you know, whatever it may be. But Paloma is really one that it's becoming very tight, very, very tight. And, you know, you think that Liberty opened and, you know, that's going to take care of things. Well, maybe not so much, but.
And so Paloma's list totaled $95,600,000. You know, and that's the face I knew we would see.
Right.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. It's an extensive list, and some of the things on the list are very expensive. I mean, the artificial turf for the back 6 acres, because of the grading and the drainage, it's $11 million. I mean, it's and that includes artificial turf at the baseball fields. So it's more area than Paris High School, but we do have some issues out there. Another big ticket item on here is building the theater with the back blocks and adjacent instructional storage facilities. That's $37 million. I mean, that's a huge project.
And the parking structure that would have to go with it is almost none.
Right. And I mean, truth be told, that behind the scenes, I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say to you that, well, we really hope that these price tags, you know, kind of get them to shy away from their appetite. Well, it's Paloma, so you don't, their appetite doesn't shy away.
Yeah, and I mean, and you have to start somewhere, right? You have to. One of the things that we reminded the committees of is, and one of the reasons we go through this exercise is when money becomes available somewhere, you have to have your list. You can't find money and then go develop a list. You have to have your homework done before you go apply for any kind of money, right? Money can't become available, then you start this process, right? We have to have this done. That when somebody somewhere says, "Hey, we have X amount of dollars ready," we're first in line and we're already past this process.
Absolutely.
Right, so $95 million at Paloma, and then their rank order. Number 1 was build a new auxiliary gym, and then on down the line. Number 3, baseball, softball, tennis locker room to include restrooms. Number 4 on the list was 4th place was build theater with black box and adjacent instructional storage facilities. Number 8. They want a snack bar with domestic water in the existing gym. You know, I mean, that's the type of project that I think it's not super high dollars that as money becomes available that can jump to the front of the list, right? That's easier to find that amount of money than the $38 million for the theater. With that, we'll jump to Heritage. Over at Heritage, also, you know, not that old of a school.
I was getting ahead of myself, 38.
Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
We go in alphabetical order, by the way, in the book. We're doing a different, just to, mix it up a bit.
Yeah, at Heritage, opened in 2007. You'd think, that school's what, 15 years old, 16 years old now. It just became eligible to get its driver's license. And you would think that there's not a lot of needs, but there's always needs.
Especially with the growth we're going to see around that housing tract.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have there's a housing tract that's going to go from Heritage Lakes all the way to Heritage,
Oh, okay.
to Highway 74. And then a little bit of a commercial building along Menifee Road there. So I think there's 1,700 houses.
Yes.
Those guys should go in there. And we
And
get
that's
one
just
kid
one
for every,
development.
What is
one
that?
kid for every 4 houses. You're talking another 425 kids just in that one development.
And the good news is we're already talking mitigation agreement with them to, have them.
Timing as far as like first house getting built, we don't know yet, but they are working on it, so it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming up quick. So over at Heritage, site improvements, replace our artificial track, and that's something that we can replace, sooner rather than later, depending on coming up with funding for it. Repair existing tennis courts, modify or revise access to the stadium, improve the quad area, plant areas and quads to be better used for new seating with shade, outdoor collaboration space, number 5. Improvements within existing buildings, modifies the existing library space to accommodate more contemporary approaches. So if you've been on the Heritage campus, the library used to be a county library. It was shared. The county moved out because they built that new library in Sun City. And so the library there has just really shrunk. So a lot of that space isn't utilized right now. So they talked about how to better utilize that space. They talked about needing a new video system in the gym, a new projector, better access for CUME folders for counseling office, like a CUME folder storage area, and improve existing gymnasium lighting controls. A lot of the things on here are not super high dollar, but being a newer campus, you would expect to see this type of stuff now. People lived on the campus for some time now, and not like the smaller stuff comes to the top, right? New facilities, plan for modular classrooms, 10 modular classes to accommodate enrollment growth. So we have an area. If you look at keynote number 17, those 2 blue rectangles, that's the area. Heritage, when it was built, CDE makes you identify an area on each campus where in the future, if you outgrow your facilities, where you can put portables. So this area back behind the Washington and Lincoln is already plumbed for future portables. Whether we are going to need to use them, who knows? Enrollment is going up as fast as we think it is, and all that new development. I don't know how people are affording these houses, but they're still buying them left and right. We have a spot there for future portables if we came to a point where we needed to put those in.
You said up to 10?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Actually,
it's
up to 10 shown here because we're so concerned about increasing enrollment, especially in that area. Just like we showed 10 at Paloma, if we need them 10s, about the max we could fit there.
Yeah.
At Heritage, we could continue. You're right, the blue there and around the corner.
Around the corner of Lincoln.
yeah.
Probably none of this is ideal, right? To have
Right.
campuses that are made to house 3,500 kids, but we have to have plans and backup plans and plan Cs.
I noticed that it doesn't say replace fields with artificial turf. Do they already have artificial turf on their baseball and softball fields?
No, they
I
don't.
didn't think so, but that's just not high on their list, then, huh?
No, and each campus, the makeup of we had the AD there and people from baseball, from athletics, and kids. I think one of the kids actually did he play baseball? He played with some sport.
Yes.
But that didn't make it on their list.
Okay.
Each site had their own priorities, so it wasn't on the list. And why? Because I think at Heritage, it's such a large site. They have so much space, right? That they can full-size baseball fields, full-size softball fields, upper and lower level, and just so spread out that they don't feel the crunch, right? They don't feel they don't get the use, or they're better maintained. They look nicer.
Has so much
so
grass
it
there. They
didn't-
host a soccer tournament there. I think they have 5 fields.
They're able to host on 5 fields. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Does that include the football field? Yeah, that was one of them.
Yeah,
Is Robert Laura still over there?
yeah. Robert's still there.
What has he got, 30?
He's 43, 44 years. One of our grounds guys.
Classified employee.
That's why those baseball fields look like they do.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, I was taking care of the baseball field.
Yeah, Robert Laurie, he started when he was 12 in the district.
Question, how much does, or are they leased or purchased the portables?
Typically, it depends. You can lease them or you can purchase them. I would always recommend to purchase. Why? Because we don't know how long we're going to keep them. Once you put portables in, they're called modular, but they don't module very well, right? Once they get put in, that's the thing. Once you put a portable in, it's there for forever. We got rid of the ones at Paris High School at 2600 because of our phasing plan, and we're building the school and we're able to move people out. And that's because they were part of the project to construct on the campus. But if they were there to alleviate enrollment growth, good luck ever getting rid of them. You know.
Is it true they only have like a lifespan of 25 years?
No, portables. So when you go, and Fred, correct me if I'm wrong. If you go buy them through a facilities program through the state, they have to be 25 years old or less. But a portable can last up to 50 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, lifespan on a portable is about 50 years.
And
And
people are buying modular homes now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bob, just to piggyback off of something that Grant said, we've had discussions with the adjacent 2B developer about creating, programs instructional programs that Lindsay and the staff can use that might provide opportunities for work experiences next door. So.
Yeah. So with that, we'll move on to the price tag. So Heritage High School, the identified needs through the master plan, $46,700,000. Replace artificial track, $1.7 million. Modify the existing library, $6.3 million, and that's changing it up quite a bit. But stuff that they were ascribing during our committee meeting to the architect, he felt that number was appropriate. Single point of entry to the admin building. That's one of the things I want to mention at Paloma is once we do our addition to the admin, we're going to create a single point of entry so people aren't having to walk onto campus to access the principal's office or counseling per se. Right? That's not safe. That's not ideal.
And you'll see that's number one on their prioritization list as well.
Yeah, so we want to, at Heritage, create that single point of entry. And the other big ticket item here was a new auxiliary gym to include additional storage. That's $19 million.
And when we built that school, we left a spot for an auxiliary gym to connect it to the current gym. If you look at that grass area that's right outside the gym, that was set up for an auxiliary gym. But they were originally that wall's built. It's a wooden drywall wall on the end of the gym. To tear that open and open up to a gigantic gym. But if we ever got to that point, I would say leave it as auxiliary gym like Paris High has. You have more usage of it then. Then you can have basketball going in one gym and volleyball in another gym. And if you make it one gigantic one, then you're limiting what you can do.
It's a great idea.
So I'm out of here. That's a big idea for the day.
See you later, George.
Take your briefcase.
The rank order at Heritage, number one, as Candace mentioned, was the single point of entry and administration building reorganization. Number 7, just to jump around the list, repair existing tennis courts. Number 8, planter areas and quad to be better used for new seating with shade, outdoor collaboration space. Like number 8 is one of those things to me is like when the campus was designed, design it, that looks nice. The Grant Bennett quad, how it's got kind of amphitheater shape to it and look to it. But now that people have been on the campus for 16 years, they're saying, well, you know what, we should have put shade here. So that makes it on the list. I mean, they use it every single day. Number 15, create golf cart storage and charging area. The same thing. It's one of those things when you live on the campus, it's storage is short order. And number 17, way down on the list because nobody wants to do this. Is plan for 10 modular classrooms to accommodate enrollment growth. And last on the list, additional outlets are needed within classrooms to accommodate charging of Chromebooks. So that's the Heritage list. And with that, we'll move to Liberty. And at Liberty, we're including it because we wanted to show you, if you look at, here's a chance I finally get to use my pointer.
There's not a master plan since it's a big campus.
Hector, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Going back to 15 golf cart storage
Oh, yeah.
charging area, couldn't we just improvise in the meantime, use like one of those C-trains in the meantime?
Yeah, and they do. Yeah, and at Heritage, we actually just built, as part of the pool project, we built an operations building.
Yes.
And it's got a big roll-up door, so I know that they're keeping some of the golf carts and flat carts in there.
Safer. Yeah.
It's safer, and it's on alarm. What people don't like is having to walk way out there to grab the golf carts.
They'll be all right.
It's their list, so we left it there, but we kind of said what you said.
Yeah, they'll be all right. No,
Yeah.
well, it's safety,
Yeah.
The bad guy's going to do whatever he can to get the high value, he's not gonna wanna walk way out there.
People that have to use C-trains don't like
I know, yeah, I've used them,
They're
but I know.
idiots.
We'll be all right, we walk.
But it got replaced with the pool, so. Pool's more now.
Tony, the operational center was meant for you. That was my
I
promise to
remember we
you,
put that
just
together.
15 years too late.
Took a little while, but we got-
Greg got the quad. We'll name the operations center the Tony Stafford Operations Building.
I don't know.
I'm standing up for this for Liberty. Obviously, it's a brand new school, so we did form a committee there. But we want to include on the list because if we needed to, there's an area here. I finally get to use it. There's an area here. This area, like I mentioned earlier, with Heritage, CDE, Department of Education, makes us, when we develop a plan, makes us identify a location for future portables if we ever need to use them. So this spot back here, this concrete area, can fit, five portables. And if we needed to, we can expand, but I mean, that'd be the least desirable option if we are, to have to add portables to this beautiful campus. But if we needed to, wanted to show you that area.
And if we have to go past 5, are we talking like double stories like we did at?
No, this grass area here.
Oh, okay.
So this area here with concrete is plumbed. It's got utilities for 5 portables.
Well,
And,
we could put 10 with.
So we can add more here in this grass area. We just have to
Saying
grade
no,
it
Mr.
up.
Bennett.
He keeps ignoring me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He wants to go double story. He wants to know if we can go double story.
No, I was asking, would that be like the next option if we had to get more than 5 to do what we did at Paloma?
So, those aren't really portables. That's a modular building. It's a permanent.
Talking about the J
portable.
building?
Yes.
Yeah, the J building.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
permanent structure, that's not more, that's right.
Right.
Size
Yeah.
is into 6, 7, 8,000.
Yeah, no,
For all
well, that's
intents
what
and
I meant.
purposes.
If
For all intents and purposes,
Look at the cost.
Yeah, if we needed to expand, like to build a permanent building
Yeah.
here, we could do a modular. That's modular construction. It's built off-site and brought in, and finished on-site. This would be an area where something like that can go.
We don't have other land on that property if we need to go more?
No, because I mean we have all athletic fields down here. We have the stadium. We have the student parking lots back here.
Yeah.
Back here, it's really tight between the property line and the buildings. This is the only area where we can fit, classrooms.
Hey, Hector,
That's right behind the campus.
can you point out where the pump house is on that?
Down here.
Yeah. Now, how did that fare during all this water? Because it's not really our responsibility.
No, that was awesome. So the only thing that goes into the sewer lift station that we work with the MWD on is sewer water. Stormwater from this campus goes down here to this corner, and from there it gets pumped across the street. Once it starts raining, we have an agreement with that property owner. It's called a stormwater water agreement. So when it rains, we're allowed to pump water across the street, and we have infrastructure, pipes, and a pump that pumps that stormwater. So sewer water goes in here, stormwater comes in this area here.
Okay.
If you're ever at Liberty and you look over on this end of the campus off of Wickard Road, you'll see a retention basin.
Yeah, I saw it when I
Yeah.
went.
As a matter of fact, sometimes this area here by the baseball fields, it's meant to catch water and it'll fill up, and people at the campus have started calling it Lake Liberty. So, because the pumps, it's got to infiltrate through the water, through the ground, and then it reaches the pump, and it gets pumped across the street. So we wanted to show you that location there for, potential future portables.
How many students can we get in each class, each portable class?
36.
Yeah.
Yeah, portables are 960s. You get 36.
Well,
Well, we have.
by fire marshal standards, we can get more, but our class size collective
Yeah.
bargaining agreement is 36. That's why I said 36 actually. So
Uh,
Hector's going to move on to Pinacati while you're doing that, page 86.
So Pinacati is another campus, the whole campus was rebuilt. Mr. Stafford, you worked there, but when it was a sea of portables,
Oh, you remember it.
it was.
Portable City.
Yep.
I think was it 42 portables? I mean, it's just portables
42.
everywhere. So site improvements at Pinacati, identified through the committee, new marquee, improved perimeter fencing, install lighting under solar panels, and in the parking lot, better lighting, speed bumps, directional arrows. The smaller stuff. I mean, the whole campus was rebuilt and modernized. So there's not a lot of really big, substantive items here. Improvements to existing buildings. We remodel, repair the 700 building modular restrooms. Kids are really hard on that portable restroom. So replace VCT and floors. More maintenance items, like I said, because the whole campus has been redone. And upgrade single point of entry. That's an easy one on that campus because it's already there. It just needs to be upgraded a little bit. And new facilities. Replace existing portables with permanent buildings. Nobody likes the portables. And an additional shade structure in the lunch area. For cost, $16,190,000. No. Big ticket item there is synthetic turf up on the track and turf in the playfields, $3 million. New facilities, $12 million. Replace existing portables with a permanent building. Single point of entry is $15,000 as compared to I can't remember the dollar amount for Heritage.
What are we referring to? Where the kids come on campus?
The single point of entry is like when the kids come on campus in the morning before the bell rings, they come through the gates, right? As soon as that bell rings, everybody has to funnel through the single point of entry in the office.
So they have like a secondary door.
Yeah. So when you walk in, you have a lobby, and where the receptionist sits, it's enclosed. It's got like Paris High School. You got a window, and they have to check in. They get buzzed through a door, so not anybody can just walk in. And so at Pinacati, the price tag is lower because we already have that. It's a closed area. They have to buzz you through doors. We just have to put a window in front of the receptionist.
The lobby, they want the lobby secured. We're different,
Absolutely.
which of course, all right, makes sense.
Yeah.
But like at Heritage, as an example, you walk into, we call it the bird cage. But there's 4 different doors you can go to that theoretically have their own reception area, and then it's just like wide open, to everybody that's in there. So different than Paloma will be, and Paris is, and Liberty is.
The rank order, what rose to number 1 on Pinacati's list was improved perimeter fencing adjusted to 8 feet, higher fencing.
Is it 6 feet?
Currently it's 6 feet.
There's a couple areas on the playfields that are 6 feet.
There's a couple areas too where like the fencing is 6 feet, but the slope, if you're standing inside of the campus, you can
Jump
because it's higher on the inside. Their highest on the priority list was improved perimeter fencing, speed bumps and directional arrows, number 2, and number 11, last but not least, is install wayfinding signage. Number 10, replace VCT floors with polished concrete in some locations. We've actually started doing that in a couple of classrooms.
I see that you have number 2 on this master list, but how difficult would it be for our maintenance guys to paint directional arrows? Would it be a lot cheaper than contracting out?
Yeah, and we do like when it comes up. It came up in the committee.
But this is a wish list, right?
It's a wish list.
Okay.
Honestly, it's never been mentioned before. Because like during the summer when we do directional arrows and stuff like that, because we repaint. And if you go to Heritage, you see that we repainted all the parking stalls and arrows and all the, no stopping this lane and all that. It's not our maintenance guys can do that. With that, we'll move to Paris Lake, alternative education site. Sure.
Number 1, the improving the perimeter. Did the staff just not feel safe, or they just think it was low to begin with?
They just think it's low. That it's too easy to jump, and so they feel a higher fence is harder to jump and more and safer.
Yeah. So, out of curiosity, who decided 8 feet? Because I do this field a lot. 8 feet is it's not difficult, but it's not super easy either.
Yeah.
So like, why 8 feet? Would we want to go a little bit higher?
8 feet is the consensus of the committee, but if money became available, then we would look at a conversation as to, instead of doing 8, should we do 9, should we do 10?
Yeah, because
Look at chain link
even
bars or what?
yeah.
Well, also, Hector, remember we have the conversation too at Paris High and at Liberty. So our new, I'm calling Paris High a new site now, right? But you all know what I mean. We did 8 feet. It's to answer your question, Mr. Campos. It's wrought iron essentially. It's I forget the name of the product, but it's not.
Ameristar.
Ameristar. Thank you. So to be consistent, and one other comment: when you look, you're seeing improving the perimeter fence adjusted to 8 feet, that exact verbiage in all of these master plans. To be quite honest, in almost all of the committees, it did not come up. And so we added it, to the list because it's.
If I can make a suggestion, I would definitely recommend a higher fence than 8 feet because, as you know, in the police academy, you're trained to jump over 6 feet, 2 feet. And what additional is not that much harder. So just so you guys know, if the bad guy really wants to get it, you're still allowing it. You're not being that much of a deterrent.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Especially if there's like a lockdown and we have issues with parents coming on because it's happened in the past.
Yeah.
And I think it's happened at Paloma a few times as well. But that's why we've always talked about 10 or 12 feet. But
Yeah.
I think what's different about this location, those are back up to houses.
Yeah.
There's houses right there on the perimeter.
Yeah.
We
So
can
you
figure
would
it out.
have to have some buy-in from the homeowners to.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure you would adjust other places, but I'm saying the rest of the perimeter, because my biggest concern is like, say we have a natural disaster and the school is on lockdown for whatever reason, if kids are there, and I know parents want their babies. I want my kids. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And then there's always those parents. I don't care what you say, police officer, security, I'm doing it, and they do it.
Well,
I'm just
I'm
saying
just
8 feet isn't
thinking-
illogical.
Well, having looked at that for years.
Yeah.
And I know
I could imagine,
what
yeah.
it is, and somebody's going to say, no, you're not far.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Prison.
I'm sure we wouldn't touch like that area. There'd be other areas you could increase.
Okay.
And that'd be a conversation where we
Yeah.
start planning it. And then do you do chain link or Ameristar like we did at Paris High School? Actually, that's harder to climb than the chain link, because you just got the bars, nothing to step on. And chain link you can do.
We have some Olympians in our community who really know how
Yeah.
to get over that.
Yeah, and the thing with chain link, chain link, you can build a 20-foot fence, but they come with wire clippers.
Yeah.
At Paris High School, they get a little lazy. It's some of the existing was 6 feet, and instead of jumping it, they cut through it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I know. Yeah.
With that, we'll move over to Paris Lake.
Page 78.
But I like where you're going. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Site improvements, improved perimeter fencing adjust to 8 feet. Same conversation. Campus lighting to be improved. Improvements to existing buildings, same point of entry at the administration building, reorganization. We really put a lot of thought into that, and I think we have some really good ideas. But it's a conversation when we go in. When someday when we go into design on that, remodel existing NPR for more flexible use. New facilities, create a multi-use sports pavilion with restrooms, lockers, and storage. The costs, we're looking at about $10.9 million. Big ticket item here is a single point of entry office reorganization, $3.4 million. And then the second big ticket item is the create multi-use sports pavilion with restrooms, lockers, and storage.
Like a gym,
So
like a middle school type gym.
it's not.
Like
It's
one
not.
at
It's just
Bell
a.
Mountain.
It's just a covered
Right.
play area, no walls. There's a middle school around here that
Bell
they
Mountain.
talk
Bell
about.
Mountain.
Bell Mountain. It's a covered play area, and it would go where their existing basketball court is.
Like a little rec area.
Yeah, like a rec area, but covered. For shade and for the rain and all that stuff. And their rank order, number 1 was single point of entry, admin building reorganization. Last on the list was provide shelter and bus loading area for sun and the weather and all that. Number 7 on the list was the other big ticket item. Create multi-use sports pavilion with restrooms, lockers, and storage. So next is pathways, PALS.
Page 62.
I love this campus. If you guys haven't had a chance to walk around, those kids there, it's just great energy. I was there this morning. Number 1 on site improvements, add shade structure to existing paved play area. If you've been on the campus, we added those exercise equipment, and they use the heck out of those things. But that whole area of the basketball courts, they're talking about shade in that area. On improvements to existing buildings, single point of entry, admin, building reorganization. That campus really needs it because once you go in that front door, you're in. Relocate special ed administrative functions to backup facility. And last on this list, expand existing laundry room into existing kitchen for greater space to fold laundry. Those kids work.
They're teaching life skills to them.
And grand total for this one, $550,000. The shade structure is about $100,000. Transforming the existing kitchen into a learning kitchen, kind of quasi culinaries, or just expand it so they're able to teach kids, culinary instruction. $175,000.
And just so you're oriented, we're going to talk a little later about how the back edge of the campus could be reused for some things that Bob has in mind. So we'll get to that.
Rank order from the committee. Number one, relocate special ed file functions to the back of facility for more growth for the PALS campus. Number two was single point of entry, administration building reorganization. Number three was add shade structure to existing paved play area. And last on the list was expand existing laundry room into existing kitchen. Nobody likes laundry, so that was number 7 on the list. Those kids are actually doing laundry. They bought large laundry facilities, large washers and dryers, and they do laundry for Paris High School. They do the sports teams, like the uniforms. So it's awesome to see them over there working.
How old are those portables?
At Pals?
They're not.
Yeah. They're from the,
About
let's see,
21 years maybe.
Yeah.
from the 90s maybe?
I put them in when I was principal at Paris High.
In the 2000s?
Yeah, because there was a daycare center there.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't have the portables. And we brought the daycare center over to Paris High, and that's how we got that building.
Oh, yeah.
And we had the portables in after that. So they're probably 20 years old.
Right.
20 years old.
And then next.
Can I just ask a
Sure.
question? I just asked Steve. With the budget of $500,000 pretty much for this campus, this PALS,
Yeah.
why can't we just do it out of the general budget and prioritize it one a year as much as we can,
And that's what we talk. I'll let Candace
Or is
expand on
another
that.
down the road?
Yeah, but it could be down the road,
I mean, is that part of the conversation down the road?
So
Yeah.
we don't have any, so today is just about presenting to you what the committees came up with. And then next steps will be to look at, how we might, generate additional facilities funding, doing financings, that sort of thing.
Okay.
It's really a board decision, at that point. In terms of, can we use the general budget? Can we legally? Yes. Do we want to, use general fund money for facilities when we could maybe otherwise have facilities dollars? That's just a cautionary.
So then at that point, do we just have a discussion in terms of the priority? I mean, I understand what he's saying, it's the lowest cost, so why not knock it out, get it done, it's out of the way, and then move on to the bigger.
Totally an option, yes.
And Edward, I would say, let me do an Indian give on one thing. I would say the only thing that we promised the committees were that we would talk to you about assessing. I mean, we have no money, but we're going to assess what's the viability of state program and this, other alternatives. So we'll talk about that a little later.
CMI is next on the list. Let me change to that.
This is our last school cycle. This is our last school cycle.
Yeah, so on site improvements, create 4 square area and construct a ball wall for 5th and 6th grade students. Multi-use baseball, softball fields, site drainage improvements, and that's one of those things, kind of what you're talking about. If there's drainage issues, we're not just letting them hang out there. We're addressing them as they come up. Yesterday during the rain, we typically, years ago, we would have fared a lot worse, but we've added so many drain lines, even at CMI, as part of, whenever we do a construction project, I always, and talk to Candace and Fred about it, I always, if we're working here, I'm looking 100 yards this way and 100 yards that way. If we're there, what can we fix?
And that's number 2, that's listed where the football field is currently, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're going to move the football field over to that blue section.
So number 9 in the blue, stadium for athletic events, daily use, that includes team rooms. So they're talking about building a stadium and then Number 2 is a multi-use baseball, softball field. So moving things around, but a new stadium, that's going to be their big ticket item. Their grand total at CMI, $50,462,000. I feel like Bob Parker. And then there's the dollar amounts, right? So we talk about where's the stadium? So stadium, $8 million with team rooms. $21 million, $21,200,000 for number 12. Create new 9th and 10th grade classroom buildings with restrooms. And there's where we were talking about those modulars, kind of like the J buildings over at Paloma.
And I see those are overlapping with current buildings, so will we be tearing out buildings to put those in?
Yeah, Paris, CMI was built at the same time Paris High School was built.
Yeah,
So-
I know those buildings are very old.
Very
old. I was just wondering if we were going to be salvaging any of them, or if we were just going to be tearing them all out.
When it comes time to replace them, to add a building, we'll tear out buildings and build the new buildings in those locations. And
Where would we
like,
house the students while the buildings are torn down and while waiting for the new ones to be put up? Where would we
There's
put those?
where we would probably bring in some leased modulars, create a temporary classroom area for interim housing during construction.
Yeah, it just looks like a lot of buildings that would have to be torn down
Yes.
in order to get
Oh,
those
yeah.
new ones in. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of kids to displace. And
1,000 kids.
Yeah. It's a lot.
If you only went through what we went through with the lobbying,
Mhm.
as to, I mean, they're very interested in, the buildings are tired.
Oh, absolutely.
They just are.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Well,
We tried to refresh them a few years ago, but you still can tell they were built in what, the third 40, something like that. Yeah.
You
So
could
they
put
were-
lipstick on a pig.
yeah, that's exactly what it was.
But they're really happy about their new carpet.
Well,
You know.
and we're just about to rip it out.
But we don't have any money to do
No, I
that.
know. I'm just saying, if this happens, it's like, I'm glad you like the new carpet. It's gone.
Yeah.
well, it's like new paint and rims on an '87 Honda Accord.
Exactly.
And no new engine, no new transmission. no new-
So number 1 on the list was a new 2-story admin building with flexible use meeting and classroom space. That was number 1 on the list for CMI. Number 2, stadium, and then number 14, solar. We when we did our big solar project in the district, we did not do CMI because we knew we were going to move the parking lots around, which we did, and where the teacher parking lot is, we remodeled all that, moved things around. So all that was up in planning. So when we did our solar project, we didn't include CMI. And that's it on the school sites. Next is district facilities, which Fred will.
And
Just
this,
to keep us on task, we're just a smidge behind schedule.
Okay.
but Not too bad. I got faith.
Is there a
in
page?
that.
Is there a page for this one that we should be following along?
no,
No.
this, Tony, I think, out of fairness to you, there was discussion at one of the meetings I was at where are we going to include district facilities, M&O, SSC, et cetera, and the answer is definitely yes. But I think what became clear to us, kind of 2/3 of the way through the meetings, was that, guys, we got to deal with enrollment bulging before we get worrying about student services center, this building, and even though it breaks my heart, the maintenance and operations, it's tired.
Well, I've been. I don't know if everybody's seen those buildings, but they're not spending their day in there, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
they store
students-
stuff, not people.
Yeah, student services just kind of had a little makeover not too long ago.
Yeah.
right.
So,
And so did this building as well.
Yeah.
So
Parts of it, at least.
Parts.
But with Bob,
Like the front building because it was rotted out.
yeah, it's roof was leaking.
anyway, unfortunately, Bob stepped out, but we've included PALS in here. And when I say the backside toward the post office, towards Redlands, we have plans that we want to think about a little bit more that for how we might use that to relocate some of the people at SSC and make a little better use out of the space we have there. But so anyway, Tony, we have not forgotten about district facilities. We just think that we have bigger fish to fry, right now.
Only a few people left that will remember
Is Panther Park included in facilities by any chance?
Panther Park is really owned by the city, and
No,
so.
no, that's Rotary Park. Panther Park, we own the 5 acres over there.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. My bad.
I was principal when we bought it. so-
Yeah, my bad. My bad.
Those guys. Because we've asked in the past about camera systems and better lighting. You know, I don't know if we want to implement that in the plan as well. Because as you guys know, we've had a shooting out in that area.
Mm.
You know, and other events.
Stuff.
No, that's a great add. Great add to this.
'Cause I would
Thank
really
you
like
for,
to see that.
and Grant, thank you for, correcting that.
Can I just
And actually, you have
go
talked about that.
back to one thing, the Paloma question?
Yep.
Yeah.
What was going, where we ripped out all those portables?
Stuff.
That's the new multi-purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I just couldn't remember.
And that's the first phase. We opened, like I said, we opened bids on Thursday. We'll award, if you guys so choose, so we'll award in September, and then we'll issue notice to proceed shortly thereafter, and we'll start construction there pretty soon.
But Tony, the existing auto shop where it is right now gets relocated, to the back part, so that we can create a new single point of entry and admin building in front there.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That's.
And what were they going to do with the current admin building? That was just going to be counseling?
no.
No, ASB gets expanded,
ASB.
and then upstairs is a video production, an expanded video production area. The library stairs where it's at. There's some storage.
Didn't they,
Career center.
we're not sharing the library with the county.
No.
So, did Van get extra room?
No, you know who's been using it is Cheer. Cheer's been in there, but as part of our expansion of the new admin, that gets turned into part of the admin building. So we're adding on to that building and then remodeling the existing library.
Where will Cheer go then?
Soap shop stuff.
Cheer's been using just a extra space that has air conditioning, but they can use the gym. They have space
They
out there.
usually have 0 period cheer,
Oh, 0 here.
so they get in the gym and
Yeah.
not be fighting with the sports.
And they have places to secure all their stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It's
It's
nice
nice to have
because
locker room access to.
But then everybody else uses it, right? I'm just talking about.
It's kind of why their auxiliary gym pushed up to the top
Yep.
of
Oh, okay.
their list because they are space challenged when it
Yeah.
comes to that not having a multi-purpose room.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's trying to share the gym.
Well, how are we
It's-
going to get our cheers in right?
Right. Cheer
No,
mom
I'm-
here.
I'm
Cheer
serious.
mom.
Yeah.
Oh, are you really?
Well, I was.
Oh, I
don't
didn't
know
know
that
that.
my 26-year-old
Yeah.
would like me calling her that.
Yeah, because I've got an opportunity to be around that and experience that, and you know, being displaced is really tough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
not for the faint of heart.
Right, that's true.
All right.
It gets
Okay,
intense
Candace?
with them, though. I know that much.
Yes, I know. my bonus son was the cheer coach at Paris High School for a period of time, and I heard it from him too.
Yeah.
We're fighting.
I have another question.
Yes.
Do we have an official grant writer for the district? Thank you.
We've all tried our hands at it. We were really successful. I
Yes.
don't remember now the rank ordering, but we wrote 2 different grants for Paris High School for the ag facilities of $3 million each. And I should know this, but I don't remember. But we were within the very top scoring applications.
And the reason why I brought that up is because I heard you mention you were lobbying. So are you still lobbying on our behalf?
Mhm.
Okay, wonderful. At least we have that.
But
We joke and say sometimes they'll pay us to go away if we'll leave
Oh,
Sacramento.
yeah, right.
that's a strategy.
Yeah, sometimes it works.
There's been many
we
times
don't
I
miss the
hopped on a
groups.
plane just to hand deliver an application, so who I'm talking to, I can tell our story,
Yeah.
and then I just come right back home.
And then we'll have conversations with people at OPSC, Office of Public School Construction, that kind of manages money when it comes up. Hey, how's it going? Hey, Hector. I'm just calling to say hello. Oh, we don't have any money right now. Well, just remember me when you do.
Yeah.
So.
And I was going to say to you, I remember Chris Madalena at Heritage High School trying to sneak by, Ms. Raines, that, why can't we just use the same submittal that Anaheim Union High School District, used for their ag program? You should have seen the look that he got from Candace. And what he went through as part of the doing it the right way ended up getting him the money for the ag facility. So,
Mm.
And Anaheim didn't get the money?
I paid
Yeah.
for long pants too.
Good. I'm sure, someone here would help Bobby with you.
Only if you wear long pants. All right. You want me to talk about enrollment now? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to piggyback here a little bit. So if we can go to the next slide. I think it'll be easy to see on there, but if you want to, it's in your book on page 19, just so you can see it a little bit better. So what I've shown you here, these are actually the same charts we showed you in February when we did a little preview of what was to come in the world of facilities. But if you'll go to the fourth to last bar, that's our 22-23 CalPADS number, 10,725. From the year prior, we grew by 3.93% as a district. I'm moving to my left here. I'm going to go left and then back to the right. The year prior to that, we grew by 4.61%. And then the chunk of years before that, you can see, growth overall, but at a smaller rate. But these last few years, we've been growing, by leaps and bounds as a way, to characterize it. Going from the current year that we've just started, 23-24 and on, these are projections. So we projected to grow. We have projected to grow by 5% this year that we're in. Still a little bit early in the school year to know if we're going to hit that number. CalPADS is a day in October. If I had to place money on it, I would say we're not going to quite hit that. But as you see with enrollment trending, you might have a year where you grow, a lot, and then maybe a little. The enrollment is out there. We look at our 4 feeder districts when we project enrollment. It's a little easier to project enrollment at the high school district level than it is at the elementary level, so we're not having to study birth rates. We can just simply look at, who's in 8th grade and who's in 6th grade and what do those patterns look like. So the patterns tell us that, while we may not hit 11,261 next year, by the time we get to 25, 26, we'll probably have made up for that. So we are looking at close to 12,000 students in just a couple of years. So that's scary. And that's why we're doing this master plan, so that we can present all of the information to you and allow you to provide direction to us in whichever direction you want us to go. So I broke that down a little bit further on the next slide. I'm pointing to Sarah, but I forgot you have a clicker, Hector. Sorry about that. So this just breaks that school site, that enrollment down a little bit more, so you can see what that looks like by school site, including the projected enrollment that we have, here in the district in the current school year. And again, this is projections. I don't know if we're going to hit that precisely at each school site or as a district as a whole. When I looked at this the Friday before last, just to give you kind of an idea, we were a little lower, just a little lower than projections at Liberty, but we were a little higher at Paloma and a little higher at Heritage. So that kind of will probably all balance out. We're a little lower at Paris High School than projected. But anyway, that's just where we sit today, and I just want to make clear that those were projections. And this does not include CMI because we're talking about Paris Union High School District. But just since you brought up the CMI, CMI's enrollment had been low actually for a couple of years, hovering right about 1,000, 1,003. You probably heard in Dr. Milosabljevich's speech. They had done a number of initiatives. They're I think the last time I looked, they were like 1,046. So we projected 1,025 for them. So they're doing a good job as well. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, if we could advance to the next slide, when we further drill that down just to our high school enrollment, if you remember some of those percentage growth increases that I was talking about, for the whole district, when we look just at the high school, we're actually growing by a higher percentage in high school enrollment than we are for the whole district. So it just lays a greater level of importance of why we need to look at future facilities master planning, and whether that be looking to purchase land, and I'm giving a precursor to what we're about to talk about, purchase land, build a new high school, and of course figure out how to fund that, or whether we're looking at putting portables on existing campuses. That is all your decision. But we have to have a master plan so that we have a place to house students, when they come to us. So we've sort of got the spectrum there, portables and maybe a new high school. I never thought in a million us opening Liberty 3 years ago and saying we've really got to be thinking about another high school. I think second and third in line to that, maybe fourth is the combination of these gentlemen here. But just wanted to provide some context for enrollment, a review of what we talked about before and what's in your master plan, and I'll kick it back to Dr. Gibbs.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Dr. Gibbs, before we go into that, what were those schools built to house? Paloma Valley, Heritage, and Liberty.
Mid 2,500.
So we're right about maximum capacity for all those. Aside from Heritage, which has maybe a few hundred left, but I mean we're pretty much at maximum capacity for all of our sites. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
That's
and
inaccurate. The Heritage, we did add the STEM building, so it's
so
maybe like
both-
27. I
Okay.
could pull those numbers up like Fred is talking, but your statement is.
And we don't have a lot of extra space to put a lot of extra students. Essentially, that's what we're saying.
That's why we're worried.
Okay.
well, and I think the other thing that I'm hearing from kids, staffs, that after the pandemic and me getting back into the loop is, as a student, give me opportunities where I can participate in fill in the blank. Don't make the school so big that I don't have those opportunities. Look at some of the things you've heard through some of Diane's presentations about, opportunities that I don't want to necessarily go to, college. I want to, trade school, whatever it may be. So I feel great that we've at Paloma and at Heritage we've located spots for a ton of extra kids, but I don't my heart doesn't like doing that to those campuses. So something that we're gonna have to talk about, and we'll talk about at the end of the presentation. But I don't know, we're in an interesting spot, as David just said, that we got stuff to think about.
I have a question. So
Yep.
in terms of the cities of Paris and Menifee, Paris is what, 80,000, and Menifee approximately the same, a little bit more.
Little,
So
I think they're like 110.
what are the 10-year projections in terms of those cities growing, or do they have like a cap at what they think? I mean, I know Marietta and Temecula are pretty much built out. They're at about 115, but there's a lot more land in Paris and Menifee.
Yeah.
You're talking about South Menifee, North Marietta. There's still plenty of land in that whole housing, the Spencer's Crossing housing area. That's where we meet. Marietta and Temecula also meets us,
Yeah.
and then Hemet has the Winchester area essentially.
Exactly.
So I mean, there's still plenty of space to put plenty more houses in the Spencer's Crossing area, which is technically Marietta.
Yeah.
and
So what are we looking at in terms of Paris, 10 years from now?
Paris,
Do you have any idea?
yeah, I would say that Paris is going down a Valverde path, if you will, that commercial,
Industrial.
Industrial.
I see a lot of the industrial buildings going through.
yeah, is very, of high interest to them. But I'll tell you that we haven't talked a lot about Romaland. Romaland's going crazy, and Hector and I kind of predicted this, that when Line A went in, the storm drain project, when that went in, a ton of houses around, within Romaland started to go in, and we're having a community facilities district funding discussions with some of the developers, in that area. So there's just a lot going on.
And in Paris, with all the warehousing you see along the, that's because they can't put anything else in that area. Because with March Air Base there, Air Reserve Base, they can't be in the path of certain areas around them. So the only thing you put in there is like big buildings with a few people working.
Well, plus that's just a major hub for anything coming into the Port of LA. I mean, they just store it there because it can go
Yep.
anywhere else from there. So they have that's what they're using their space for, is all that industrial.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, can we move ahead? We're on future sites. So what I'd like to do is we've talked, I don't know if you remember, but we talked in closed session about, a love-hate affair with the Legato developers. And, this is kind of, me being spiteful and I told you how much I like Paris, so I'm going to show you how much I like now. The Orange County developer that owns Legato, which is on the east side of the 215, right well, in fact, you can see it right off the freeway there.
Between the mortuary and Ethan Act.
Correct. Hans Christensen.
McCall, not Ethan, yeah, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Coming south, yes, from the mortuary.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. But so we continue to have some discussions with them. We're planning to go back down and meet with them again. It's an excellent site if we were to build another high school. The city of Menifee has now finally kind of come to their senses and have, at least to me, recently admitted that, that might be an awesome site. I just don't think my appetite likes the price that, the developer may be looking at. But, as it sits there vacant longer and longer, that appetite might go down. So that's a spot that we're looking at. It's another spot that this really makes me feel old, that a former kindergarten student, when I was principal at an elementary school, I got in touch with him recently. He's now, in the development world. And I talked to Aaron, and I said, Aaron, do you remember Mr. Good? Oh, my principal? Anyway, he is entertaining or discussing with us the potential for a spot for a potential high school that may have some promise, that might be more reasonable with regard to our appetite. But you see it in the middle of the middle picture there. That's a site that we're looking at that is halfway between, if you will, where where Heritage is, and in fact, it's kind of halfway between Heritage and Liberty, kind of in that. The tricky part is that it's just outside Menifee school district boundaries, which, may or may not be of any, concern to you.
Is it technically in Winchester?
It's actually, it's county, yeah.
Yeah. In the Hemet district?
No, it's actually in our district.
In our district?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you said it was just outside.
Yeah. Just out. Well, it's interesting, David. It's just outside of Menifee district boundaries, but it's still in our in the county. So we're looking there, and then over on the west side of the Menifee area there's a development going in there that we've been talking with them and also some neighbors that maybe have interest in working with us. But the problem is the available land for a new high school, first of all, wants to be 55 acres roughly, so that it's closer to Heritage rather than closer to Paris High School size. It's hard to find, it is. So, but we're looking, and we're, in fact, we have a quote unquote field trip Thursday, that we're going to look at, a property again. But I wanted you to know that we're trying to do our due diligence, and that's with not 2 nickels in our pocket right now. But, we are working with a developer on the project that, we've been talking about right adjacent to Heritage, that they may be willing to front some money for us as a down payment, maybe. So we've had those discussions. If we could go to the next, this is looking way down the line, but if in the Lakeview area, if that project were ever to come to fruition, we have a high school site there that we've pointed out to them where it is and where we want it, how many acres. So we've included that in the master plan, but could be exciting if and when that project, comes about, but I don't see it happening for a while. But nonetheless, Villages of Lakeview is what it's called, and I wanted you to,
How many houses are there?
8,000.
And that's in the New View area, right?
Yeah. But that's a big project.
That's Lewis Homes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, if we could, the last new school site, remember we had discussed the new middle school site. We have acquired the site. We have it. It's right, it's close by. It's obviously in the Paris Elementary portion of the district. We have completed plans for the school. It's kind of on hold right now. We don't feel that there's the need because, some form of robbery of students is happening with the Penicotti deal. So the enrollment has gone down, but nonetheless have a great project there if and when, the time is right.
When we, just to piggyback up that, if you don't mind, when we started down the road, the new middle school number 2, Penicotti's enrollment was 1457.
Yeah.
Well, we have, a charter school, not our charter school, but Innovative Horizons is competition, and so our enrollment at Penicotti, declined over the years. It's leveled out, now, but it's a nice sized middle school.
Right.
But it's probably not worth, trying to sell property that was so hard to get.
Well, and what's sad is so much thought. I mean, some of the things that, some of the concerns that you were hearing the other night, they've gone into planning for the new school. So there's a lot of thought that has gone into it. It's just we don't think the enrollment is there quite yet. Okay, if we can go to the next, this is the sticker shock slide.
On page 105, if you need the sticker more
Yeah.
closely in front of you.
And Candace, do you want me to take
Yeah.
this? Okay. So what we've done is, Hector mentioned this earlier, that this is the slide that kind of just takes all of the site improvements at the existing sites, building improvements at those sites, and the new facilities, and lists them in a little bit different form, and the total aggregate for all of those costs are $23 million. So big price tag. It's been bumped up. The architect bumped up the cost to cover like 3 years of inflation, but nonetheless, we thought we needed to show you what the price tag for all of the things that were shown to you earlier, what those are. And Mr. Stafford, just to let you know, I haven't forgot the district facilities, but we have not costed out, the facility cost associated with here, with SSC, with maintenance and operations, and also the PALS Annex project, but we haven't forgot about them. But what we have done is, and Hector and Candace and I have kind of taken our best crystal ball at this. We haven't included, our price tag for the new high school in Villages of Lakeview or the new middle school, but we have taken a stab working through our construction managers and the price to build a new high school in one of the spots that I showed you in one of the slides is $235 million. So that becomes a real interesting discussion. That do we build, do we do the 10 portables on or more on each of the existing sites and run the risk of creating a high school site that is too big, or do we start thinking about actually planning for a new high school that, like Candace said, I never thought we would be talking about this this quickly, but kind of feels like we're at that point. So that's the sticker shock page, but we've got to do that. And then Candace, do you want to talk a little bit about funding and?
So now's where you all look at me and say, well, how do we afford this, almost $500 million, sticker? And, I'll say the same thing that I said to all of the committees when we started our work with them last year. When we sat down to have our committee meetings in the 2016-17 school year that culminated in that 2017 master plan, we didn't have any money then either. But, as we heard Rector, that's what I heard.
That's our combination name, Rector.
Like J-Lo.
Sorry about that. That was not supposed to be in
Well, it's better than Fred and Art.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't like Art as well.
You guys are witty, that's for sure.
Wow.
We spent a lot of time together.
We certainly have. All right, let me see if I can get everybody back on track. As Hector said, recently, we have to have a plan. We have to know where we're going before we, and start looking like, how do we tackle this? So, what are the ways that we fund school facilities in our world? So one of the ways is we collect developer fees. I think you guys all know that. We participate in what's called the State School Facilities Program, SFP. We've had a lot of great success. I'm going to talk about that more in detail. $58.8 million for Liberty High School. I talked about those two competitive grants we wrote for Paris High School. Those totaled $6 million. That's just in recent history. I've got a slide with the full history there. Community facility districts, those are land secured bonds. Back in 2011, we sold what was referred to as our 2011 revenue bonds so that we could leverage incoming CFD payments. And so that was a little over $40 million. We try to be as strategic as we can in utilizing our dollars. Of course, applying for other people's money ranks right up on top of the list with the school facilities program. You can form school facilities improvement districts. Those are SFIDs. In a nutshell, that's where you take our 182 square miles of boundary and we carve something out and we put before voters something where only those taxpayers are paying. Doesn't generate as much, obviously, because it's not everybody. We've not done that, to my knowledge, certainly not in my tenure in the district. That is an option. We can enter into mitigation agreements with developers. Fred alluded to the property that's coming around Heritage High School and that they may be willing to help us participate. In fact, they wouldn't do that out of the kindness of their heart, right? And just give us money because we're nice people or we won't go away. But they may agree to, in lieu of their developer fees, we'd enter into a mitigation agreement for cash now instead of cash later, those types of things.
Candace, could I add just
yes.
one? I mean, you say out of the kindness of our heart. Truth is, we work our tails off. It's not that any of us love the relationship with City of Paris or City of Menifee. In all honesty, we like Paris a little easier, better than we do Menifee. But we play the game well enough that we know that we have leverage with developers that when they have to go to the City of Paris or City of Menifee to get approval, it really helps that they know all of us by name, face, and that we're going to be there. So that's part
I
of
hope
the
you're
plan.
taking them out to dinner and working it already.
Yeah.
So, anyway, and the Villages of Lakeview project, as an example, we say we have property there. We haven't paid a dime for it. We have a mitigation agreement on file with them. So if and when the time comes, we would have that, not to build the site, but to have the land. And so we like to explore all opportunities. Second to last one on the list here is certificates of participation. You probably heard me refer to COPS over the year. We did that most recently in 2019, almost $40 million, and that went towards the construction of Liberty High School. And then last but not least is a general obligation bond, and that's, we did Measure W back in 2018, Measure T 6 years before that in 2012, and I've got history of that too. I'll go over with you. So those are all of the different ways we can fund facilities. You brought up for PALS, is the general fund an option? Yes, it's an option. Lots of people, of course, have their eye on those dollars, right? And so, but it is an option. It's not illegal by any means. This was in your booklet as well, developer fee collection history. So over the 15, oh, thank you. One more, you were good. So this is on page 17 if you want to look at it more closely, but our 15-year developer fee collection history is almost $30 million. I won't go through and read all of the years there. And just like enrollment, it ebbs and flows. It's higher in some years, it's lower in other years, just as the development trends go. I might have had that page number wrong because I say that this is page 17 as well. So one of the last two slides is page 17. But this is our history with the school facilities funding program over the last 20 or so years, $157 million. So this is the money we refer to. Sometimes they don't really, but sometimes we like to say they pay us to go away. So, but you can see the point in showing you all of these is we really try to explore every single avenue to fund our school facilities. And I think we've had a really successful history here in the district. Yes.
Can you go back one slide? I'm sorry.
Yes.
One more. I'm sorry. One more. Okay. Our participation in the state school facility program. That's the state's bonds that they put forward.
Yes.
Correct.
Correct.
Have they talked about putting anything going forward?
Yes.
Because I know they haven't done it for a bit.
For a long
Yes.
time.
And we got in on the last one
Yes.
to finish up Liberty and to pay for the pools and all that other stuff.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, is there any talk that they're going to be putting anything on as a bond measure
I'm
going
going to
forward?
talk about it in just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
But yes,
Can-
is the,
please
yes,
continue.
yes is the answer.
Yeah.
I'm
No, you're-
stealing your thunder. I'm sorry. Go
No.
ahead. Go
That's all
ahead.
right.
You're doing great.
And then if you go to the next one, actually, Victor. So when we talk about financing, so those are our COPs, our CFDs, our general obligation bonds. I went back to 1999. This is what I have in my files in my office. There's a history before this, but I don't go back that far. So, so Measure T, you do. So the first Measure T was actually in 1999. So these are this is a general obligation bond, so out to the electorate of voters, Prop 39 elections, so 55% or more passage rate required. So that was 16 million. We advanced to 2000. We did a COPS then for 6.3 million. That was for a large portion of Paloma Valley High School. You can see the dollar amounts are going to grow substantially as we go through the years because, just like everything else, things get more expensive. Measure Z in 2004, that was 46 million. That primarily funded, or was one of the primary funding sources for Heritage High School. In 2003, there was a COPS, $23.5 million. We did those 2011 revenue bonds I mentioned before, CFD, back for $42.3 million. Measure T in 2012, $148 million. Measure W 6 years later in 2018, $153.4 million. And then that COPS that I referenced earlier as well for almost $40 million in 2019.
Have we repaid back completely any of these, or are these all still on the books, at least partially?
They're not all on the books, at least partially. I have to. So in terms of the bonds, so the bonds are sold in series, with the exception of Measure W, with a single series.
Single
so
series.
each series will have a lifespan of 25 to 30 years. So they're Measure Z, Measure T, and Measure W are
Still on the books,
currently on the books.
Not the original Measure T, no?
Not the original.
Okay.
And that's because some of them have been, so this very short history doesn't include any of the refunding bonds we've done. You might remember we brought when we get lower rates, and so they'll get folded into the new financings. And that doesn't actually give us as a district any more money. What it does is save our taxpayers dollars, so they're not seeing all of those old measures on their tax bills.
So the 2000 COPS, we paid that. The 2003 COPS.
No, we still have debt financing on that, but that's not paid for. I'm sorry, and I was answering based on voter debt. That's district debt, and that's actually paid by the CFBs as well.
Okay.
So,
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Back to you, Dr. Good.
yeah.
We're a minute
Thanks.
past our timeline. Are everybody still hanging in there? We can. Thank you.
I'm out of here.
Thank you.
Thank you to you two for leaving me with the fun last part here.
It's your master plan.
It is. It is. We have an interesting situation going on. So we have been informed that all 4 elementary feeder districts are maybe considering a bond. I'm not here. I know how much you would love me to ask you to do a bond, and I'm joking. But the one thing that I think about the only thing that we promised to the committees was that we're gonna have to ask the board to at least consider utilizing developer fee money, not a large amount of money, to measure the climate. Because I personally think that the 5 districts, 4 districts plus us, we're out of our minds. I mean, if we're thinking that, but on the other hand, I have to tell you that when I first did this in 2007, we had this wonderful story to tell that we used all kinds of revenue sources that were non-district funds to put up as matching share amounts for various programs where we could access money. I'll tell you right now, I mean, we were talking about the state program. I think they're going to finally consider, after 10 or 11, 12 years, maybe refilling some of the funding opportunities. But nobody needs a high school other than us. Everybody needs to rebuild their Paris High School, which we've already done. But I'll tell you, I think we would be foolish to not say to you that we need to weigh what are the attitudes about what we've done. I can tell you that we have gained a tremendous amount of respect with the city of Paris and city of Menifee and the county of Riverside with what my partner here and I, Hector mostly, have done to rebuild schools in the middle of the pandemic, both Paris High School and Liberty, so many of the projects that we've had. And I think we need to be able to say to you, we've tested the waters, and the world thinks that we're doing a much better job than we were last time we went through this. So I would beg of you, if we could spend developer fee money, which is not general fund money, to at least figure out where we're at in the cycle. Candace, the other districts are doing the same, correct?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, all 4, and we would have to measure this if we'll get to more drilled down in the recommendations, but we certainly have to measure this. So all 4 feeder districts have engaged the same feasibility consultant, who ultimately becomes an election consultant, that we used last time. The partners are with a new firm. They're called Team Civics, but they've engaged all of them. I gotta look at my notes on my phone. So Roma Land is currently in the position where they're considering if they're going to do a survey, a polling survey, just to kind of test, the waters to see, as to use Fred's words, are we crazy or are we not? Paris Elementary has done a feasibility survey, so that's the polling that they've done out in the community. Menifee is in the process of finishing writing their survey. They're planning to field that at the end of this month, and then Newview has also done a community feasibility survey. So you'll see that that's part of our recommendation, that we think that we should do that as well, just so we can see. I mean, as I said before, as it relates to another high school, I didn't think I'd be sitting here 3 years after building Liberty. I also didn't think I'd be sitting here 5 years after passing Measure W, saying this might be an avenue we need to look at. But before we can look at that, before we would ever even ask the board to say, should we or should we not place a bond measure on the ballot, we have to know what the community thinks. So we have to know what Fred said. We have to know what the community thinks about what we have done previously. We have to know what they would think of potentially placing a ballot or a bond on the ballot. We have to know if we did that, what types of projects would they support and would they not support. So just those of you that were here before, just like we did before. I don't know if I went off on a tangent or answered your question.
No, that's. But I go, yeah.
So the
Edward.
bond would cover the new school and our $250 million.
I don't think we know yet,
I don't think
Edward.
we know that yet. Here's what I can say. When we look at our assessed valuation, we're almost where we're going to get new data on that, so all of these numbers will change. Interest rates change, all kinds of things can change, right? But when we look at what is the maximum amount we could go out for a bond, when we look based on last year's numbers, right, we're somewhere in the $240 to maybe $275 million range. So that number is lower, than what we saw in the previous slide, right? But we need to not forget about all the other different funding mechanisms, right? Our last master plans had a higher price tag than everything in the facilities master plan. Doesn't mean we were able to fund everything, but we were able to fund a lot of it with more than just bond money. So all of that is pretty far down the road, because this is a big chunk that we'll ask to study on your behalf. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay.
So my next question is, because I want to make sure I'm hearing you right.
Yes.
So you pretty much want our consent to use funds from the developer's fees? And how much money is that? And that's just for a survey?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. If
And it actually does need
Or
to
is
be
that more data than what we're talking about?
No, that's the data that we're talking about, for sure.
There's not more data that comes along with that? Just
Well,
the
it would
survey?
depend on what the first survey
Okay.
said. So, let's say we went out and the community was 30% support. Well, we know we're not
Forget it.
ready yet. We've got a lot more
Right.
legwork. Let's say they come in at 50. Well, then maybe we should keep talking.
Okay.
So question,
Yeah.
since everybody else is doing it, why not save the money, see what their results are preliminary, and then determine our action based off of that? Because I would say 3 out of the 4 communities are similar. Why not just wait and save it, or would
That's
it just be?
It's a good question, and it's an interesting question, and it seems very logical, and we certainly could do that. It would seem as though we could take the data from the 4 districts and just add it up and make them our district, but we have a different set of electorate, right? And they have different opinions towards a high school district than they do towards elementary district. That is just the way that it is. This might be a strange comparison, but and I won't name district names, but in one of our districts, they get a lot of bad press, so to speak, about the way they handle special education. And when parents talk about that in the community, they compare that district to our district, us in a positive light. And so we wouldn't, for something, my recommendation would be, you're asking me, we wouldn't want to take something as important as this and rely on opinions, which are data, of how they may feel about another district. Certainly is something we could consider.
Well, I'm just saying, if everybody's heck to the no with inflation, and if everybody's just
And the fact that we just went up for 2 bonds and got them in the last 12 years, will be 12 years if
It would be
I'm just saying, if it's dismal,
I can
why
tell you the
even
survey
spend
results
money?
for the ones that have the results back are positive.
Oh.
So,
right.
yeah.
Well, and I also think we also.
And those are the districts I would expect to be positive, though. Just to
I
be
think
full
we have. And
disclosure.
you were saying we had a positive relationship with the city and school districts and the county, but I also think we built up quite a bit of goodwill with the community with finishing Liberty, and
Yes.
and I haven't heard a bad word about it because I've talked to different people. My daughters go there. Everybody who visits says it looks like a college campus. I was like, that's what we were going for. But I mean, everybody seems to have a positive idea of that. Anybody who's seen Paris High School in the last year and what they've known in the past, they they have nothing but glowing reviews for how we've done that too. Putting pools in all the schools has been a really big influence getter with that, because that was something we wanted to do, and we kind of hinted at it back in Measure Teen, but
Icing.
the icing on the cake, and we finally got a chance to do that. And I know a lot of schools are completely ecstatic about that, but I think we have a lot of community goodwill built up with that. That could help influence their feeling toward another high school if needed, which we seem to know that it is needed. So
And you're saying that much more eloquently, so we need to measure that.
we need,
which is
yeah,
specific
we.
to our
Like you're saying, I
district
think we
and
have
not-
enough out there, but I'm not going door to door to find out if that's the truth. So, but from what I've talked in the community, it seems like we have quite a bit of goodwill built up because of all the things that have happened over the last decade, in terms of all the schools, all the improvements we're doing in schools, Liberty being built, all that good stuff.
Well, I think people like new.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I go around Marietta and I go around Temecula. It's not new. You know what I mean?
Would
There's-
that put us in a predicament again with the neighboring district wanting to take us over? If we built a high
Well, and
school?
the thing is, that's why the new high school, we'd have to put it in the Menifee Elementary District boundaries if we could, because if they are going to unify, now Paloma Valley and Liberty will not be able to house all their high schoolers.
Plum,
Well, not going forward.
Liberty doesn't go with it, it's in county land.
Liberty does because it's in their school.
It's in their school district. I'm
Yeah.
talking the Menifee Elementary School District.
I guess what I'm saying is, does it put us in a position where they go, oh, look what Paris did, let's go for the kill again. And then here we go. get
Well,
all
and
this
that-
crazy
and that's
publicity
their prerogative,
and
and
crazy
they-
town hall meetings where they're talking all that nonsense, and then we're like, really?
Well,
we want to go there? It's
So-
That's their prerogative, though, and that's their cost if they wanted to do that. But there's nothing we could do to stop them. But they would still have to fulfill all the requirements that the state requires, from not just their side, but for for everything else would have to fulfill all of those state 9 requirements as well. And I don't
they
foresee
looked into it
that
last
happening.
year, and the state told them you have to start the process all
Yeah.
over. You don't get to take the data that you had 15 years ago and use it still.
Or we even did it. Yeah,
So it's going to cost them a lot more.
And, my opinion on that, it really is just an opinion, and some of it's based on data that we saw. So to answer your question, anything we do that could potentially impact, either help or hinder, that subject is going to start the conversation to some level again. But what the data showed us when we did the polling in advance of the 2018 election is, while there is a vocal minority that talks about this, it does not represent community thoughts on it. So that we have data to support. Subjectively, Dr. Root has told, Grant, in addition to what Grant, shared, what you've been sharing, Mr. Nelson, is it's just not being talked about, anymore. So now that's not a guarantee from me to you that, if we go down this path, it won't be, but I think the data shows us that it's not part of any campaign, so to speak.
Frankly, and I'm the only one that can say this because I'm not a district employee. I don't think Menifee wants any part of it when they've seen what it takes, cost, effort, organizationally, all of that. I don't think they want any part of taking over what Liberty High School represents. That's just my opinion.
Now you're talking about the district, or you're talking about the city?
I'm talking about the district.
Menifee Elementary District.
Yeah. Again, that's just my opinion, but and plus, given the fact that we would be handing them a high school that already needs to go on a diet, and we don't have, the next one built.
Fred, could I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
They just built a brand new middle school. They built that off of a bond, right?
Yep. Yes.
Well, didn't they also? You're talking about the one over in
Catherine Newport.
It's right
Yeah.
around the corner from my house, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a feeder school into our district. So are they going to try to claim that we can't house the students that they're attempting to feed into our district in a negative way?
yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying they're gonna graduate a class every year, and they're still building houses.
Yeah.
They'll have 2 middle schools, or I think
This is
it's
their 4th.
4. Okay, well,
Kind of like.
Oh,
So
that's right.
how many students does that bring? One middle school bring? Just a rough estimate.
Well, I don't know their capacity there, but
1,200, I bet,
if we
Okay.
could,
ultimately.
400 a year.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they're doing a phased approach.
And we're the only place they're gonna go, right?
But
I
those
mean,
aren't all new students, is the
No,
point to
they're
remember.
robbing students from other middle schools usually too when they adjust the boundaries for that.
Sort of like our 24 to 500 students at Liberty, they aren't all new to us. Some came from Heritage, some came from Liberty as we redrew the boundaries.
Plum Valley.
Just kind of wondering, are they trying to be quiet and pull a fast one and say, okay, we built this school, we've got all these students, you can't take care of all these students? I mean, it's just one of those things you have to catch out of the side of your eye and say, well, what are they up to?
I don't believe
One
so.
way or another, we'll be housing the students.
Yeah, okay.
At Paloma, at Heritage, at Liberty, if we have more portals we have to put in, that's what we have to do.
So they have no charter schools, do they?
Not dependent.
Yeah.
Santa Rosa County,
Santa Rosa, Santa Rosa.
but it's not, it's the independent charter.
Bear River is also in there,
That's true.
but that's a county-run
Yeah.
charter.
We have one in Paris right here too.
Yeah.
Because listening to Dave earlier, and he was saying, there is a lot of land left in certain.
There is.
There is.
For houses.
Well, and a lot of it is on the south end, where Liberty would be taking a lot of the students. But if we take them there, we'd have to adjust to keep the numbers down. If we got a new school, we'd have to adjust the boundaries so a lot of the students on the northern side of where Liberty's territory is now would have to go to the new school.
Yeah.
So I mean, that way we even out numbers as more houses were being built down there.
Because they built that big housing tract where
Yeah.
the driving range was.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then the other question, this is just one for you guys can answer. What, the locations you showed us,
Uh-huh.
what would be your preferred? What do you
Well,
think?
my devious little mind is working
There we go. Fred.
fast and furious right now.
Give it to us.
Because one of the sites that we're looking at would ironically be on either wrong or right side, depending upon your perspective. It would be just over the Menifee Union School District boundary. It would be in Romoland,
But serving the city of Menifee, or the Menifee.
but in the city of Menifee.
Okay.
And it certainly would fight that argument that we're unable to house your students, but if you stay within our boundaries, you're still in the Paris Union High School District boundary.
It gives us some pull with those other cities or other districts. Because I'm wondering if Menifee would try to pull those.
Well, and
Get
but if we,
loyal to them, I don't know how that.
but if we have it within the Menifee Elementary District boundaries, they would probably be more willing to back it because it would be something that they could use to unify down the road.
Yeah.
If it's not in their boundaries, then it wouldn't help their unification cause.
Right.
So if it is in their boundary, there's a good chance that that district and anybody else who is in the know on the whole process would be more willing to back it because it could lead to unification down the road if that's what they're still looking to do.
And in all honesty, the pickings are so slim
Oh, yeah.
that Hector and I have got to find a site in a location that the Department of Education will approve, based upon student needs and programs, and that's not going to be easy to find. But this discussion is brought some interesting topics to the.
I was just had those questions in my mind.
Good question.
I see why your wife doesn't trust you.
It is slim pickings. We out there.
I'm just an old fire captain.
It
No.
is slim pickings. You see land out there, and you see all this open land. It's all spoken for.
Yeah.
A good viable site away from power lines, away from gas lines, flat land where we're not spending $50 million to grade it. I mean, it's
Oh, shoot, it's the houses.
a lot of it's
Yeah.
spoken
A lot
for.
of blue topped already for
Yeah.
housing.
Yep.
But it's why we can't forget about number 6 up there. We've got to continue looking for potential school site.
Yeah.
operations.
Okay, well then I'd like to make the motion to use those developer fees to what are we looking for? We're looking for
So if we don't actually, can you go to the next
don't
slide?
need a motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually,
We're on.
do you mind if we just take a?
Yes, by all
Yeah.
means.
Okay, go back.
I just
Go back.
kind of want to get this process.
Good, no, leave it
And
at
I hear you. I just want to make sure we're fully transparent. So we got
Okay.
six
Yeah.
things up here. I'm going to just quickly. Number 6, we just talked about. 2 and 5 are just exploring housing options, either in the short term or the long term, in case we don't find land, in case funding isn't available, a bond isn't viable. Any of those things. 3 and 4 are similar in that we're always going to look under every rock. That's the summary of those 2, right? Yes.
Real quick, Steve was talking about them doing their data first. How long would that be if we pursued that option? So they
It's
complete
really
their
a year-long process because what happens is you do an initial poll and you see what those results are, and then you formulate what the next step is. So I wouldn't want to predict what those next steps are.
And Edward and Steve, I have a little different because I really was thinking recently about your idea that why don't we just let the other 4 go? But I'm looking at it even one step further. I want us to have access to data so that we understand if a state school bond is on the ballot, what does the data say, for us? And in all honesty, what I'm thinking about is CMI is the one program that we wouldn't have to gather a whole bunch of money for a matching share. But it's the only way that a CMI project is going to happen is through some kind of state funding. We never say that to them, per se. Well, no, we actually have. But so there's a lot more to this than just putting it on the shelf and not accessing it. I think we need to do it.
And it'll give us fresh data. It's pretty much.
Absolutely.
Well, then also the problem with waiting for them to do theirs is, first of all, we wouldn't necessarily have as accurate data as for our district as we needed to, and secondly, we would be dependent on their timeline. So if there was anything we wanted to do before the election next year, we're talking about possible. The earliest we would get a bond would be next year on the presidential election in 2024.
I would agree.
We may be behind the 8 ball in terms of time because we'd be dependent on waiting for them to get their results.
Yeah, very astute.
And they don't have to share.
They don't have to share.
probably
Yes,
would.
they're the ones who paid for it. They can hold it close to the vest and say, "No, this is our information. We don't have to give it to you."
What's the actual cost?
So will you go to the next slide and I will answer that as I go through, if that's all right? Okay. So this is our last slide. Only us standing between you and dinner or whatever you're going to do after that. So we are recommending that you as the board authorize us to engage in formal planning to study the feasibility of a local bond. So that number 1 from the previous slide. So what does that mean? That means retaining a feasibility consultant. That's the Team Civics that I talked about before. Same one that the 4 districts are using. That's really beneficial to us so that we can, if let's just say all 5 districts end up going for a bond and it's on the same election, we got to work together, we got to strategize, we got to have the same feasibility and ultimately election consultant. The cost for that, Tony, is $7,000 per month. And I'm saying per month because let's say we go and do our first polling, right? Polling roughly $30,000, depending upon how many people we survey and the number of questions, but right in there. Let's say that first poll comes back and it's like, only 25% of the electorate's going to support this.
Done.
Then we cancel the contract and we got to go back to the drawing board. So that's what the costs would look like there. We need to do that community polling, and we would have to test what our message would be. So that's testing, as both of you said, we've got a lot of favorability built up. When we went into Measure W as an example, I think we were going in with some distrust. You passed Measure T and you didn't do what this was the perception. It wasn't right. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. We got a lot of goodwill, built up now. So we very likely, hopefully, we'll see different results. Based on what those results look like, we would want to do. We have a good track record, here with 2012 and 2018. And so, you know, I don't want to reinvent something that's not broken, but getting out and working with the community, starting with our Citizens Oversight Committee, and having stakeholder meetings, seeing how people feel, seeing who's willing to be the boots on the ground, you know, if we get there. That would be a next step also, forming a study or a feasibility, you know, committee, you know, like we did last time. And then different this time, in some respects different in case other districts are on the ballot, the same ballot, or looking at a potential same ballot, is coordinating with those feeder or collaborative districts. That's going to be really important. So we would go out and do that work, and we'd see you next July. No, I'm kidding. We would keep you guys.
Oh, that might be a little late.
Yeah. No. But the election that you're referring to,
Yeah.
Mr. Nelson, the board would not have to make an official decision until next July, so 11 months from now. But what we would do is either have additional study sessions or time carved out within the regular board meetings to update you with the polling. Say we'd actually have, you know, those consultants come and present to you so that you know what we're talking about.
So I'm looking at the language right here, what's being recommended. Does that throw out other possibilities of trying to get money from other avenues that you mentioned
And
earlier?
never.
Mhm.
It didn't before, and it never
And
will.
is there a possibility of doing everything to try to remove money from everywhere?
We're gonna try our darn. Well, we will all. I can commit to you. We've never stopped, and we never will. Trying to get every dollar, even if it's a small pot. I mean, we did a lot of work, I'll admit, for a $3 million grant. It was a lot of work, but we did it because it's the right. So we're never gonna stop, you know, doing that. Whether it's talking with developers, whether it's applying for competitive or formula-based or any of that, we're always gonna do, you know, all of that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which way you want to look at it, the big bang for the buck, because this is the way schools are funded in California, is a general obligation bond. You talked about, is there going to be a California state bond? That would fund the state school facilities program. That's what Mr. Nelson was talking about. For those programs, you have to have local dollars to match. It's not a 50-50 match, they say it is, to
That's
even
not
apply.
right.
So we're gonna,
Yeah.
it's really bad math.
What about hiring a consultant to write grants in the meantime? Is that a possibility?
We could. I just think when it comes to facilities, the three people you have in this room are going to be more skilled at it. I don't mean to
And
do,
more
do
invested.
This, but we've had a good track
And on the
record. We've never
And on the payroll.
and on the payroll.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you disagree?
No, I 100% agree, and I, you know, that brings scar tissue because I know she cracks the whip, you know, but no, I definitely think we're going to be the most invested and the most interested,
We have
and
a
the most
perfect
successful.
record, right?
Back at Measure Z, I know, go back to when we're building Heritage. You know, you get the money from, partial money from the state, but I think the money from the bonds we about tripled with all the different programs that were available.
With all
With
of
what
them.
we researched and found other avenues of funding for schools, and 46 million ended up being almost 120 million altogether.
It warms my heart because I think you've read all of our facilities master plans because we talked about that a lot in the previous ones.
Yeah, we have a really good track record of turning $1 into
$3.
$3, $4.
But the opportunity has to be there, and I think that's what I want to be totally. I always will be honest, but you know.
So, Mr. Nelson, I know you were trying to make a motion, but this is an information item. So, but you could rephrase that differently. I'm not trying to speed it along or anything. I just want to make sure we just need direction. We would bring these contracts back at the September board
I
meeting.
think there's a motion
Did
to
I
adjourn.
capture it the right way too? You said
Yeah.
if the data doesn't show in favor, we can either drop it or have another conversation?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So, what the timeline? I probably should have, in hindsight, put a potential timeline in here, but I didn't. So, I'll
Do you
talk.
want to tell us the timeline?
I will. So we would bring those contracts to you at the September board meeting. Assuming the board approved those contracts, we would begin working with the consultants. My best guess is that we would have those consultants in front of you at the October, probably more reasonably the November board meeting with the results so that we could say, do we take the next step? Do we call time of death? You know, I did two ends of the spectrum there.
And how much money are we spending altogether combined with?
She
all
said
the-
about $7,000 a month.
I thought that was just for one.
So in total, so
Continue on
2
for a
months
year.
of the feasibility consultant, we're looking at 14,000,
Okay.
one survey 30,000, so about $44,000.
Okay.
So
But
next steps beyond
facilities
that-
dollars.
Yes, yes.
So the results of that study will give us the figures on voter constituent impact on what they're taking on.
Not the so no, we would bring that at the same time. So what the results of this would tell us was what we would do is test different amounts. So would the voters support a $275 million bond measure? Would they support a $100 million bond measure? And then what does that success potentially look like? So that, and lots of different things. We would test our messaging. Would they support a high school versus only putting portables that are existing? We would test all kinds of things so that we have the data. We would then pull, which wouldn't cost us anything, from our finance team. We would put those numbers together for you. I can tell you right now the maximum bond amount for a high school district is $30 per 100,000 of assessed valuation. So based on what you're paying your taxes on. So any of us that have been in our homes, for a longer period of time, our assessed value of our house is lower than maybe the neighbor
Who just bought it.
who just
Right.
bought
$600,000 or whatever it
Correct.
happens to be.
Right.
Correct. So that's how that works. So we would have all of that. I just want to make it clear it wouldn't be from those consultants.
Well, that's too far ahead. I'm thinking too far ahead. So
Okay.
I'm just thinking.
We're doing
okay,
baby steps.
We're saying
It's a good
if
question.
there's an appetite for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard not to do. I mean, but you need the data to begin.
Yeah,
Well-
I'm thinking in the taxpayers'
Yeah.
shoes now.
Well, yeah, and the fact that they are already paying for bonds that are still on their tax bill,
Yeah.
and not just ours, but from the elementary districts as well.
Because I live in a senior.
Yes,
I have a
absolutely.
senior
Right.
district. Yeah, I
Well,
hear you, so.
and if we're going for a bond and all feeder districts are going for a bond, if they were all to have it, they would have up to $60 per $100,000 valuation on their bill, one from us, one from the feeder district. So I mean, that's an extra $60 on their property tax at the end of the year. No, per $100,000 valuation. So it could be even more, depending on how much their property is. But I'm just saying. Hmm?
$360 for $600,000.
For a $600,000 assessment
Per year.
Yeah, per year. I mean, it'll add up, and so we really have to know what the community's willing to do, and so that's why I would like, even though it's not an action item, I would like to submit my support for going for that information, at least just to see where we stand.
And let me reiterate, that does not mean you're supporting a bond. We're not.
Not this time, anyway.
Yeah,
I'm okay with data, so,
yeah.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
yeah, I'm okay with data.
I mean, I don't think it's.
You know, and in a couple of months, they may say it's completely feasible, and then we just say, well, we'll wait till time down the road.
Yeah.
That's what it has
We
to be.
appreciate you coming down today and listening intently on what we have to talk about and giving us that direction to move forward and looking at feasibility of a possible general obligation bond down the road somewhere. So now you go home. Oh, we have to.
No, we have to close it.
Oh, yeah.
We have to close it.
That's great.
6.1, special meeting with the Board of Trustees for August 21st, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Yeah.
Trustee Garcia, Trustee Lego. We'll just take a oral vote. Get it for him. Trustee Nelson.
Aye.
Trustee Campos.
Aye.
Trustee Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee Blair.
Aye.
Myself, Trustee Stafford.
Let's see.
So
Oh, we
this
can vote
special meeting
electronically.
is closed.
You can vote electronically. It's open.
I didn't see it there before.
And then those of you that borrowed one, if you really want to, I'm
No,
not
we
going to
did
stop
that.
you, but I'd love to have it back.
Well, you know you want it back. You brought it
I
up.
do want it back. Yeah. I wasn't
Closed
really
at
secretive about
6:06
that.
p.m.
We're going to present this to our Citizens Oversight Committee next week as well. So I wanted them to be